The following podcast is a group of people who will be talking shit, drinking, using cuss words and living their best lives. The opinions or views expressed do not necessarily reflect the views of their sponsors, supporters or anyone important outside of the four walls of the show. If you are not 18 or older, we suggest talking to your parents about this podcast before watching it and becoming scarred for life. We hope you will enjoy this and not get butthurt or become a keyboard warrior after taking it all in. Thank you for watching and supporting us on our journey.
Frank's looking good.
I'm on it. Everything's looking good. Let me pull up the sponsors.
I don't even know. We need to add the wolf den to it next for the next one. Probably should have already did that, but life
happened again.
I just went to Walmart and got these beers because I had to get some other stuff in. So they're cooling as we're drinking.
Okay. I was wondering, I was like, who?
Yeah.
That one was a little warm.
I mean, they were in the cold section, but dude, I sacrificed myself on that one. I got soaking damn wet.
Yeah, you went right in the middle of the rainstorm. So I decided to leave right in a rainstorm, so it's perfect.
All right. Whenever y'all are ready, everything's already recording. We're starting. So
perfect.
How does this thing work? There we go. All right. Are you ready, Robert?
Oh, I'm ready.
Robert's ready. All right. Are we good? We're recording?
Yep. I'll do the sync just in case we ever have that audio issue again. So if you guys could clap, I'll do 3, 2, 1. Or actually, y'all can do it, count it down, and then just clap.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
You ready?
Ready.
3, 2, 1. So when you came into the shop the other day and I hadn't seen you, I hadn't seen you in a while.
It's been a while, yeah.
It's been a little while. And I asked you to do this. I started thinking, I was like, there's probably not a lot of people that know that or can put a face to FTJ.
No, that's true. A lot of places I go, I'll be cruising through the pit, so I get to hear the good and bad.
Right.
And then somebody will be like, well, if you have a question, you need to ask him. That is FDJ. And I'm like, well, there went that. I can't go down that aisle anymore.
Right. But see, like, people probably use your product not probably, but use your product all over the country, and you'll be at a race and just like I have been many a times, like somebody that isn't up with pop culture, pop RC culture, or hasn't been around or whatnot and hadn't seen you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you said, it is good and bad.
Is.
There's been multiple times people walk in my shop and I'll be helping people and I'll walk by and someone say, hey, do you work here? And I was like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like keep that anonymity and
It's great because you can hear all the stuff. So what I'll do is if they don't know, right, I'll listen and then I'll be like, so when I use it, I usually do this, and I just come, start trying to help them a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I'll walk away and then somebody will tell them, hey, by the way, that's
Yeah. Dave McEwen will tell you that the story of a guy asking me in the pits. It was something about Masters one year. It's like, how many times have you been to this race?
A few.
And I was like, just about all of them,
Yeah.
and Don and McEwen were back there and they started cracking up, but that, and I like that. I personally would rather just be able to help somebody and them not know anything about me, I don't want anyone to treat me differently.
Correct.
Because of who I am or
what we
want
do,
something.
Right. All of us that want something. Right.
Yeah. So you're on vacation. You're in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, it's great.
Family life.
Family loves to come down to Ocean Lakes. We come down typically whenever we're off during the season. Luckily, this time the Olympics are going on, so we can't be at the racetrack. So got 2 weeks instead of 1 week.
So really, so you guys, what makes, well, so for people that don't know, and we'll probably discuss it, but your full-time job is you're a spotter in NASCAR. Yep. But what makes NASCAR pull away during the Olympics because of the TV contracts?
It's all TV, right?
Gotcha.
So we're TV based, right? So we're entertainment on TV, and the Olympics take over TV for that amount of time. So it gives us time off, which is great for us. And then it makes the fans hungry, right? Because they haven't seen us for 2 weeks. So the next race, which will be Richmond, I'm sure we'll have quite a few viewers because they haven't seen anything for 2 weeks.
And that's like home for you.
Yeah, it's great. So I'll have a 2 week vacation, and then I get to work from home the week I'm back. So it's great. So I'll be at Mimi's on Wednesday, next Wednesday. Since I have a home race, I get a hall pass. So
nice. So I don't know when I'll get this up. I have a track record of being a little bit behind. There is tomorrow I'm launching a podcast I did with Paul Wynn at National, so 3 months ago. But I'm hoping to get this one and another one I have in the can knocked out real quick because I'm going to Worlds in a month, and I need as much of this stuff done so I can work on new stuff while I'm there type stuff. So so the whole NASCAR thing, you've raced your whole life.
Yeah, I started. So when I was 3.5, my dad took me to a quarter midget race, and asked me if I wanted to drive one. Well, I mean, like any boy at that age, I was playing Hot Wheels like crazy. So my dad asked if I'd like to drive the Hot Wheel. So of course, yeah, right. So the next night we went out and bought one, and I learned how to drive a quarter midget in Dodger Stadium parking lot.
Wow.
So I'm a American League. I'm a Boston Red Sox fan, which we'll get to that later. But it's because they're kind of like the bad news bears. They were way back when they didn't spend any money and traded off Babe Ruth and all that, which whatever. But and then I'm a Dodgers fan just because I can't help it. I started driving in their parking lot at 3.5, and the best part about it is my dad, he would just drive up in there. I mean, he just thought it was a big parking lot. My dad wasn't into sports, so I mean, Dodger Stadium, I don't know. Weird, so he would just find a parking lot in the back, and I'd drive around. Nowadays, I'm sure we'd get arrested, but back then he'd set cones up, and yeah,
that's awesome. Quarter midgets is my background as well. That's where I got started, so it brings back a lot of great memories.
It does. I was what a great childhood,
Absolutely.
Really
Me and my best friend, who I call my brother, we talk about all the time how those were like our best days.
100%.
Like we like those days. I mean, now that we're fathers, he's father. It's a little different.
It's different.
When I say best days, like best days of our childhood,
100%.
And man, we're both girl dads.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna have a boy. I know for a fact. So
I've got 2 daughters, one from each marriage, and that's it. I went with a different model even. I got girls. That's just,
we tried every which way we could. It didn't happen. We both wanted a boy, and it just God works in the way it works. But
yeah, he has a sense of humor. That's what it is.
He loves us.
Yes,
he loves us. But had she wanted to race or do something, I would have been so
100%.
happy. I would have jumped all in it. But she's chosen the absolute opposite. Gymnastics, cheerleading.
Mine's into taekwondo and swimming. So
yes. Which swimming's racing.
And see, so my competitiveness has come out in her in that. Like, so we first started, she was swimming, kind of going through the motions, and then I kind of taught her how my dad was. Like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it. So we started practicing more, and she was going to practices, and then we were going twice a day to practice, and I was getting ready to burn her out, but I was like, if she could just feel what it feels like to win one time, then she'll understand. So she wins a heat. And of course, I'm screaming like she won the Daytona 500. She wins a heat, and when she got out, she told me, she said, and it made me about cry there on the point. I might even get teary now. She said, I never knew what it felt like to win. I never knew what you meant. I never knew why you went to work every week saying that you were going to try to win. I never understood that until now. And like, she was 6, So like, that's just awesome that she felt that. My oldest daughter has never felt that. So I thought that gene maybe I was just nuts, but no, my little one was, now I get it. So now when we go swim, we hammer it.
That's awesome. So finishing second or losing to me is not okay. Like, I don't want my kid to think that it's okay.
Right.
If you give it your all and you don't get there, it's one thing. It's still not okay.
Right.
It's okay to feel bad.
It's okay. Yeah.
You know?
Now, when we get out of the pool, though, we're not going to cry.
Yeah.
We're going to just man up next week.
100%.
You know?
And we've been seeing this, these new generations, and I'm trying to tell these kids, like, it's not okay.
We're not into the participation trophies. We like first.
No, we want to win. And if you don't want to win, I don't want to say it's the American way, but it's how you like, in my opinion, and I've got a pretty strong opinion about things, it's how you make it in life. Never settling, never wanting to be second.
Right? You always, if the harder you strive to be better, the better everything gets, right? The better you get paid, the better this goes, the better this goes. Just you got to strive to always be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the best quotes I ever heard was, you have to learn how to lose before you can learn how to win.
Yes.
And that's so true, because losing sucks, but you
does.
have to take it like.
Unfortunately, we lose more than we win. But it sure does when we win, make us feel that much better.
Yeah. So she's swimming, still swimming?
So yeah, she doesn't. So we only swim like for the neighborhoods, right? There's different. I guess it's like summer leagues,
like rec league type stuff.
Yeah. We haven't gotten to where we're any farther than that yet, because she enjoys Taekwondo so much that I don't push her to do anything. I let her choose what she wants, but she likes Taekwondo so much that's the route we're going. She wants to become a black belt before she can drive.
Oh,
and
goals.
she's purple belt right now. She's learning how to take knives away, which for a 9-year-old to know how to take a knife away and about flip you over is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
She'd kick me in the head. Like, it's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't. Mine can flip over the top of me.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Like she's
Yes.
in a different way.
We tried gymnastics and it just wasn't. That's just not what it just wasn't for her.
Yeah. No, and that, like you said, I didn't push my daughter to do
just let 'em
anything.
choose.
She chose it. She loves it. But the fun thing is like when you go and watch them compete,
Yes.
it's just like you're in it.
100%.
You know, like that's you. You're in there doing it.
I want to tune on her so bad for the swimming, but I can't put no wedge there. I can't, like, you know what I mean? I got nothing. I'm like, all I can tell you is you got to kick harder.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I got.
Longer strokes, kick harder,
Exactly.
you know, stay underwater longer. And now watching the Olympics, and every time I watch the Olympics, like I love the swimming part, the racing, you know, the track and field.
I'm all in.
Yeah. So you're like, oh, if you just, you know,
If you could just do like that girl right there.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
man, those, you know, watching these swimmers, my wife even said the other day, she's like the way that their bodies start, the way that their bodies build.
Yes.
When you become a swimmer, like they all look the same.
Yes.
In whether they were going to look like that or not before they were swimming, that's what they all end up looking like when they take swimming on. It's incredible, like the length of their arms, their traps, just.
Well, and see with her, so my wife is all of 4'11", so my daughter has got to swim farther than most because she's not but so tall. So that's eventually will become a disadvantage.
Yeah, well, we have very similar. My wife 5'1", 5'2".
Yeah.
She'll probably tell me 5'3". I don't know, but
Well, mine
they're
will
short.
tell you 5'5", and she's 4'11". But good thing she can measure like that.
Right. It's a good point. So we'll get back to family, I'm sure, but you started off in quarter midgets, and then where did it go from there? Because I don't know much about your family, but I know that you come from a racing background.
Yep.
So did you like go straight into like midgets, or did you go into dirt cars, or
if you remember Turkey Night way back?
Oh yeah.
when. So,
or when
in Ascot.
Ascot, yeah.
So I went from quarter midgets to TQ midgets, which was 3/4 midgets.
Yep.
So it was like the step down from the full midgets. So I went there, and then I was running a Pro 4 car at the same time, which was a 4-cylinder, looked like super late model, but a smaller version.
Okay.
So I'd run that on pavement, and I'd run the TQ on dirt, and then the TQ would run some pavement. So I ran both of those for a while, and so during all this now, my dad died when I was 13. So that my career, all of a sudden, it was like, oh, great, you know, now what? Because, I mean, my dad was, I mean, you know how it is. Like, I'm at every swim meet, right?
Yeah.
Like, so then I started having to drive for somebody at already an early age. And then my mom kept me in racing. And then we decided, okay, you need to move east. So I moved to Virginia and started driving late model stock cars. And then my mom died in 1995. And so I only graduated high school in 1991. So if you can just think of that time frame, my career was just starting to go, and then my mom died. So right then I had to really focus hard on my career. And I started spotting in 1999. I stopped driving and started spotting. And then I went and spotted, which is now Xfinity, was Busch then, and Cup. I did that for a year. Then I was like, man, I need to start driving again. So I went to work at Townsend Racing Products. I was working there while I was spotting.
And they're a chassis manufacturer, car
late
products.
model chassis.
Yeah, exactly.
And back then they made some Busch cars.
Okay.
Mainly late model stock cars. But I was working there, and then I was in their shipping department. And then I started getting in the sales department, and Rick Townsend was like, hey, I've got to go testing. Why don't you come with me? So I started coming with him, and I'd work on the cars, and then he would get frustrated. We would be testing with somebody, and it would be kind of like even in RC cars, right? They can't make the double, or they can't, and you can see kind of certain issues, right? Well, they weren't going as fast as they wanted to go, and they were obviously paying Rick to be there. And so Rick would be like, hey, did you bring your stuff? I'm like, when I was young, I was taught you never leave without your helmet bag.
Helmet's always in the truck.
When I spotted, I had a helmet bag in my truck.
Absolutely.
So
we were taught the same.
Yeah, you don't get an opportunity if you don't have it, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd get in a car and I'd go about 3 or 4 tenths faster than the customer right off the bat. And so then Rick would be like, what does it need? And I'd tell him, and we'd tweak it. Long story short, we would pick up the customer quite a bit before we left, and then we'd leave. So that started getting out. So Rick would take me more and more. Well, then he would start putting me in the car sooner, because he felt like, well, then we don't have to work till 5 o'clock. We can work until like 3, and drive back.
Right.
And then we even had one customer. The shop was on an airstrip, and one customer would land their plane, pick me and Rick up at 7 in the morning, fly to the racetrack, practice all day, fly back, and I could clock out at the shop at 5 o'clock.
Wow.
It was awesome.
That's cool.
So that started happening. Well, next thing you know, I started getting ride offers, and then I start getting rides, start driving, and then my career, bam, took off again. I started winning a lot and driving for several different owners.
I've seen pictures of you. Didn't I see you in like a Bailey's Hooters car or Bailey's?
Yep, I ran Pro Cup.
Pro Cup. That's Bailey's. Hooters Pro Cup, or it might have not been Hooters at the time, but Pro Cup.
It was Hooters.
It was Hooters.
Yep. And then I ran for Bailey's and Tahoe, which was both Bailey's.
Okay.
I'm actually down here with Jonathan Bailey, Mac Bailey's son, who I got to know really well during all that time. We've been friends for a long time.
That's
so
cool.
I'm actually down here with their family as well. So
I'll never forget those cars, because we were always at Myrtle Beach Speedway for the Hooters Cup races, and I had friends, obviously. I hung out with Lance Kelly and those guys quite a bit, and they did a lot of all the Hooters Cup stuff for a while. But I
won a lot of late model races at Myrtle Beach.
At Myrtle Beach, yeah. I mean, it just what a shame that is. That's a whole nother freaking. That got shut down because people moved there knowing a racetrack was there and complained about the noise.
Yes, that makes sense.
Unbelievable. But yeah, just seeing those bright blue cars with the Bailey's logos and the cigarette packs and the different stuff on, like it very recognizable.
Absolutely.
Very recognizable brand and team. So I knew those teams, not really knowing much about the drivers back then, because I was aspiring to drive back then.
Right.
I cared nothing about anybody else, and was only hyper focused
on trying to drive.
And we went straight the opposite direction. We went to go-karts, and just because that it was so big, and still is big.
It is big.
It was really big back then, and that's when it really started getting into money racing, and now it's out of control. I mean, maybe in a good way. I don't know.
You got to be a chemist to be at the go-kart races.
Right. A lot of work on, as they say, on the bench, but really in the garage working tires to win go-kart races. So when you obviously, like you said, you had some success, but where did it stop? Like why, where did did you want to go to the next level? Was that like the goal, the aspiration?
The goal was obviously Cup. Like back when in my quarter midget years, I raced against Jeff Gordon a lot. So we were friends. We'd ride bikes around quarter midget tracks all the time. If you go back in history and look at all the track record stuff, I outdid him a lot. But he was able to do the path early enough to get to Indiana, to get into the midgets, to get like his path was really good. My path was different.
Yeah.
And my path didn't work out like his did. Plus, he still had his network behind him of being able to try to help get sponsors, this and that. Whereas I was on my own, I didn't have mom or dad no more. I had to dig in and do it all myself. So late model wise, very successful. The problem was to get to the next level, you had to bring sponsorship. And I didn't have enough to bring to the table to get to the next spot. I actually went and tested a truck before, went and tested a Bush car, but it was just because they needed somebody to go test. It was kind of an audition, but not really, because I couldn't write a check.
You had no money.
I had no money. You know, I needed to get paid. When I drove late model stock cars, I got paid. I made my living driving late model stock cars, which not a lot of people could say that, but that's how I fed my family, was in that. Well, then I decided, well, the window's closing. I'm getting older. So I started building our own chassis, which building your own chassis, which, you know, from the engine program and the fuel that you got going on with the assault, anytime your products win races, it feels really good. Well, to take a piece of steel and to come up with your own creation of a race car and go out and beat them all, there's just nothing better, right? So we started doing that, and then we started renting cars. So we had like 4 teams traveling all over. Started doing that because what got me so burnt out was I never could write a check to go to the next level. But if I could help somebody that maybe didn't have as much money to get to the next level, but maybe I could give them some help on getting better or getting their racecraft better, and they had a check they could write, but maybe not as much, maybe that could get them somewhere, you know. So that was our goal. So we were trying to help people, trying to get them going, trying to also make money at the same time.
Yeah. In the industry that you love or knew, you know.
Yeah. And that's like, I was like, okay, well, maybe I can't drive, but maybe I can get somebody to the next level, right? Well, then times got tough. The smaller businesses, which we won't get into politics, but the smaller businesses started to get hit hard, the individual businesses, because of certain things that happened in the higher up stuff at different house, like the White House, you know. So we started, I remember having to sell my truck to make payroll. I came back in a cab to make payroll. I'm like, this probably isn't going so good. Because I could do fine individually, but when I had 9 employees and I had a bunch of space and a bunch of equipment, and you know, you could see the beginning of the end. We weren't. I remember during one presidential election, I had over $1 million worth of work sitting on my desk. If the right guy got in, the right guy didn't get in. So I was like, we're out. So I got all of my employees' jobs. And then I closed the doors and went back to doing what I was doing. And what I was doing before I started building race cars and all that, I would go help test, just like I was with Rick. I started doing that again and started networking. And then I went to work with sellers and started helping a kid named Colin Garrett. Started running at South Boston, trying to get him better. We won the limited championship together. Started going that route. But I was always spotting, right? So like I was always kind of helping drivers develop for a long time. Well, then I was like, well, maybe I need to start that path. And then lo and behold, I'm a Cup spotter today. So it's just all in. I knew I wanted to be involved in racing. I knew I wanted to make it to the top level. Obviously, I want to make it to the top level as a driver. But I do feel like being a spotter at the top level, especially Daytona, Talladega, a spotter is a gigantic help to
Huge
a driver.
role. It's a huge role.
So, and most of the drivers now want an ex-driver in their head. And the reason why is because we can anticipate things as fast as they can. So we know what's coming as fast as they know. We can get them out of those situations quicker than somebody that hasn't had driving experience, right? So I feel like that there's a niche for sure. Like if you look on the spotter stand, there's so many ex race car drivers that were very, very successful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know 3 of you who are all friends of mine, you, Stevie Reeves, TJ Bell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, each one of you all have racing experience. I mean, Stevie
100%.
Reeves being
Stevie
one of the
Reeves,
most
yes.
amazing people you'll ever meet in the stories. Like, I've been telling him, like, you need to come in and sit down in this chair because
He could give you a 24-hour podcast.
I know.
Yes.
And
He tells me a new story every week.
every week. I mean, he came in, same thing as you. It was last year during Darlington in September, and they stayed the week after.
Okay.
Or at least 3 or 4 days. And he came to shop. We went and had lunch. And from the time I left there to go have lunch and come back here, I mean, we sat in the parking lot out in front of my office for half hour because he was finishing a story.
Yeah.
And Stevie's just golden. I mean, as far as people goes.
I've known him since the 80s. Quarter midget days. Yeah, we met him going. I think we were going to Michigan when we met him. But yeah.
So I grew up, I was born in Tucson. I raced a little bit in Phoenix at their quarter minute club. But we moved to Colorado when I was 10.
Okay.
So I spent all my racing time at Jefferson County, unless we were traveling around doing Monzas.
Did you run Colorado Springs?
I did go to Colorado Springs. Great track.
I won the Nationals at Colorado Springs.
Did you?
Yep.
Yeah. So my best memory was Akron, Ohio in '96. How old are you?
No, I wouldn't have been there in '96.
No. So that was my last year, and we went there and did very well. I remember Pancho Carter telling my dad, he's like, "That kid's got something." I had a little something. Like I wasn't, I wouldn't call myself, great. I never made it. Obviously, I don't know how good I would have been, but I knew that I could have if I wanted to, and
I needed the opportunity.
And we didn't come with money. We did everything out of a back. We didn't even show up with trailers. Like we showed up in the back of a truck, 2 quarter midgets, all our stuff in totes. Like we were the low budget team, but
we were quick. We had a Dodge conversion van that they had converted kind of into a motorhome where they could put 1 quarter midget in and then one on the roof of the. So we were the one going down the road with the one on the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we made do and we did good.
My dad built his own engines.
Yeah. We did too. And that was the whole thing. Like we did everything, and my dad just being the intuitive guy and having the know-how to do things, we would find speed secrets that people were just not looking for. And
my dad designed his own quarter midget. We ran, like my dad built the quarter midgets. Yeah, it was
that's awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So knowing, that I've always wanted, I knew I was always going to be in the racing industry. Prior to this, going back to like you building chassis, I manufactured carts, and that was like you said, going out there and beating people on your creation.
Yes.
It's the greatest feeling.
Yes. There's nothing better than that.
Greatest feeling. And I part of being where I'm at right now, for instance, like in the retail side of the world, and yes, having the engines and stuff like you brought up, it's gratifying.
100%.
But it's not my creation. It's my get behind it and push it and get the right people in place.
But you improve the product, you make it better.
And obviously the goal. But there's still a part of me that wants to have that ground up feeling. Like this is mine. And like building cars and doing stuff like that. It's always kind of been in my blood to manufacture, produce, make stuff that's.
I mean, look at the Assault RC line. Anytime you get an idea, you got something else.
Yeah.
I just looked through some of the stuff. I was like, I didn't even know you had this.
Yeah. I wish I had more time for that. Like those are the reason why Assault started, was because I wanted to be able to take my thoughts or my ideas and put it into something little. Yep. But obviously, having your own brand in this industry, which we're seeing lots of pop up, and it's the margins are better when you're making your own stuff versus selling other people's stuff.
Sure. Well, like FDJ was created, same type thing on the tire sauce. I felt like I could do something better than what was out there, and then had Max Fleur started running my stuff right away, and we started going to races together. I remember we were at CRCRC one time, and we were actually squeezing the dauber out to get him enough because he was in AAA mains, and me and Dave McEwen had to stop running. It was due at the time. It was our green dot. We had to stop running it a day before because I was like, hey, Max is on pace to make the mains, and I only brought enough to like, I brought different flavors, right? So I didn't know what was going to work there.
Right.
And green was our newest one at the time. And I told Dave, I was like, we're going to have to run red because green right now, he's got to have it. And we squeezed on his last tire, squeezed the dauber out to get him to be able to run enough. So, and then lo and behold, Mayfield's had success in 8-scale world on our stuff.
Rivkin uses it.
Rivkin won the nationals at your place, 10th scale nationals. So, I mean, how cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, going back to the products, when you have a product that succeeds, it feels amazing. When Dakota won the first national championship in Phoenix on the Ultimate engines and the Nitro X fuel, it was like, I felt like I won, you know,
100%.
It was just like, you think about it and you start selling something or you make something and you're like, oh, if I can just get it in the right people's hands, or because my talent's not good enough to go out and do that. So
I'm not Rivkin, right? I can't drive like him.
Exactly. We have to hand this stuff off to the right people. I get it all the time. There's lots of haters. Matter of fact, Dakota started this podcast with me. He was the first one I had on. Excuse me. It was after Masters in 22, and one of the comments, I'll never forget it because it's such a dumb comment that it makes me realize, like, he's not wrong, but I'm not wrong either. The guy said, because I said something about him being an employee now, because he works for me. And he's like, all you're doing is riding the coattails. I'm like, motherfucker, yeah.
Yeah.
I am riding his coattails and I'm paying him to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, that's what sponsorship's about though. Sure. Like most of the time in the real world, you don't sponsor someone you think's slow. I mean, in RC, we have a different pandemic of sponsorship going on. But most of the time, the goal is to get the fastest guy running your product, because even if it's not the superior product, and you might think it is, that guy can make it better.
Right.
And that's what we do. Or, like you said, develop a new product, or to take that product and make it better.
Feedback, right?
Exactly.
I'll talk to those guys, and I'm sure you do too, on, hey, what didn't you like? Obviously you liked it, but what didn't you like? What do we need to improve on, right? Because we can't just sit here and not make more stuff or different stuff to try to be better the next time, right? And that's why, like FDJ, the product line has grown, because just when I think about discontinuing one, I'll get a big order for that particular one, maybe in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. The dirt is different there, so they'll order a different color. So it's like, I can't cancel any of them out. People are like, man, you have too many, and I'm like, well, not necessarily. I mean, you go to different tracks and they'll run 3 different ones maybe, but yeah, they're specific to these 3. Whereas, Mimi's right now is a glued surface. So, that's kind of where pink came from, silver came from, is because I started running there more, and I was like, well, there's more glued surfaces coming out. Let me start going that direction. So that's where those 2 came. And then they ended up working really well here. And several other places. So it started out as just being maybe for glued stuff, but then it trickles down, and I really appreciate all the different drivers we have, because they'll try all of them just to see.
Yeah.
I've had guys try the foam tire dirt oval stuff to run on rubber tire off-road, and like, hey, that kind of worked. And I'm like, kind of is not what we want.
Kind of is not
that's not what we
feedback
want.
We're looking for.
No.
Especially when it's not made for the dirt oval stuff. Is like the foam tire stuff is. I don't even know what to say about it. Like the fact that somebody tried this on that and it worked was kind of like, what made you even think of that?
I remember when back in the day on foam tires, we ran suntan lotion. I mean,
which goes back to like, what made you just be like, I wonder if this Hot Topic or whatever it is.
I was racing in California and I was burning, so I was like, I wonder if you ever work on the tires.
That's what I'm saying. Like, when it comes to tire prep, anything, like, what made somebody say, if they weren't a chemist, let me cut a piece of that rubber, or let me put it on the rubber and see how it acts. Yeah. I mean, let's put, would one beer be better than the other beer? Like,
if you doubled the beer, it'd be better.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the amount of science projects in the tire prep world.
Well, and you fail too, right? Like I think a lot of times people think coming up with a new product is easy. It is not. Like,
No.
especially if you have a successful product, like our green, for instance. Our green at your place was dominant for forever, right?
And it's still really good.
It's
I mean,
still
even
really
with the
good.
new stuff out, because it's not as aggressive, you know.
Correct.
So
Not as aggressive. So it's still one that runs really well. I actually want to take a caricature of Max Fleur as a panda and put it on the bottle one day, because you remember the old buggy grip with Brian Kinwald on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, Max ran green all across the country there for a while when he was traveling.
I mean, 9 out of 10 times you ask him, "What are you running for preps?" Like, really?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Green.
Do green, whatever. You know,
Dude,
it was very
like Chili Bowl. What are you running? What do you mean? I'm gonna do. What do you mean?
right.
I'm like, really? We have like 9. Yeah, I'm on. That's what I'm on. Like, okay. Do you want to try one of the new ones? No, I'm good.
It's hard to break habit, you know.
Well, I mean, he's won that race how many times now? So I mean, he's not wrong. Right?
Yeah. Man, one of these gnats I see flying in front of us flew in my eye a minute ago.
That's not good.
And that's why I'm messing with my eye. Yeah, Max, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure Max is probably a good reason why FDJ is as big as it is. I mean,
100%.
He was running the hell out of it.
He was the one. So he was the one that was fast at that level of the top guys at the time, and he was willing to try it, to run it. Whereas, you know, it's hard to go up to Spencer and go, "Hey, man, I know all these companies here are paying you here to be here, but I need you to run that."
Right.
You know, like that was a hard thing. And so when we were first doing it, I'm like, how do I get it in the right people's hands? Well, Max would run and he would be up in the mix. Well, then pretty soon, people would ask Max, what are you running? And then it started slowly going, and there we are, right?
Well, the reason why so many people didn't run preps like that, a couple reasons. One, shops weren't stocking it, so
Correct.
they would have to have it shipped. And two, the prep they were choosing to use, they could get it at any auto parts store, and they would just travel and throw it away or leave it for the track afterwards.
Right.
And when they found out that that's not as quick as what they could buy,
Difference.
there is a difference.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, for the longest time, Liquid Wrench would be the prep that it was Old Faithful.
Yep.
But now there's more to it. There's more science, especially to the rubber compounds that are coming out, to the track surfaces, like you said, between glued. My track gets almost like asphalt or carpet. It gets and we have no additives. So, and then you go to tracks that have no bite, like Hobby Action, where I think it's getting a little better. But you know, for a long time, their dirt before they mixed new dirt or something, they struggled getting bite, and it would come up and then it would go away. So every track surface was so different,
Right.
that, you know, just buying something off the shelf at AutoZone wasn't good enough anymore.
That was a hard thing to convince Mayfield or Spencer. I'd talk to him and be like, dude, I promise my stuff is going to be better than what you can buy off the auto parts shelf. I said, because I can buy that too. And so I'm developing this stuff that I promise you I'm faster with this stuff than what you're buying.
But they test that. I mean, for them, it's so hard because if they haven't tried it and if they're not using it, they don't want to go to a marquee event and just try something new.
Oh.
And then not knowing is half the battle. Like, they have to know. And I think that's the difference of the ultimate professionals and the guys that are weekend warriors. You know, they're at the track all the time. Whether we're talking tire prep, you know, fuel mileage, tire tread and compound, car setup, new parts on cars, bodies, you know, wings. Yeah. These guys try this stuff during the week all the time, and no one really realizes that just because they're not there on a weekend, or they're, you know, they travel every weekend, that they're not still working on figuring out what's better. That's their craft.
Well, and what's made me feel so good is those guys now always try my stuff, right? So now at least my name is in their head of, well, let's try some FDJ. Let's throw some of that on there, right? Like they'll just like when they were here, you know, I remember shipping you another box because it was like, hey, this stuff's going quick. You know, I'm like, great.
Yeah, you had just come out with pink silver. Pink had been out a little bit, but silver right when Nats hit.
Just hit, yeah. Timing is everything.
I know I used it that day, and I'd played with. I use your stuff most of the time. I played a little bit with the track tack stuff, and that this silver was so aggressive. Like if you needed bite, it was
right
instant.
now.
You know. So and then if you know, I always use dew. I was like Matt.
Right?
Yeah. That was the whole thing is like I knew how to use it. So anytime, like even when you'd come out with something new, hey, try this. It's tough for me to even go to it because I already know on my track exactly how to
this
use
is going to
dew.
run this lap time right here.
Right. I can, I know that if I take a little bit off, don't put as much on, or if I want to, get my tire down more or whatever, I know I can do one more round of it. Like I just knew it,
Right.
So learning a new chemical or a new, style of prep or whatever, just.
Well, especially silver. So what we did with that, it's so different too. Like dew, we put it on with the dauber and then we brush it in with a toothbrush. Silver, you can just dauber it on and you can go out wet if you want. So like it's two different type situations, right? Like a lot of people are like, well, how do you prep, this color? And it's gotten to that point of the older colors. We brushed in, and now pink and silver, we don't. We can go out wet. You can, if you want it more aggressive, you just double dope it. And so one dope you'll do, let it dry, dope it right before you go out and run, go out wet. And by the time you hit the second corner, it's on fire.
Yeah.
Silver, you can go out. If the more aggressive you want silver, put it on sooner. But if you're already pretty good, like car feels good, just dope it. I'd say like, if you're in the next heat, when you hear them call 2 minutes, dope it and go get in line, and you're ready.
Yeah, and that's there again goes back to like dew. You'd want it to be on like 2 heats before,
100%.
and rubbed in and almost dry by the time it gets on the track. So
Correct.
it's just knowing, and I don't know a lot about a lot of other brands. Like when people, every single thing is because of what they put in. It's gonna act different and need to be put on at different times. So you see a lot of guys using, and to be fair, at different tracks, whatever the house prep is. And obviously what you would like to do is become house prep at all the tracks, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But to be fair, when those guys are using prep B from another brand, they know how to use it. And so here comes this new brand in.
Yes.
And
it's hard to break in a lot of
unless
times.
they get beat by it left and right. Now it's like, okay, I need to at least experiment.
Yeah, because perfect example, if a guy that typically runs third or fourth comes in and beats the local hero, local hero going to go try that.
That's big.
Yes,
anytime someone starts going faster that you don't think should go faster than you're trying to figure out. Yeah, motor, battery, tire prep, tires.
What you got going on over there, bud?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why is that one taped up?
Right, exactly.
What brand? Which color is that?
What you hiding under your table, bud?
Yeah, for sure. How long have you been racing RC cars?
So, funny story. Back to all the sponsorship. So, when I was hunting sponsorship for my race cars, I was like, man, I need to practice sponsorship, how to get a sponsor, and I need to figure out how to have success doing that, because it's hard to go ask a guy for $1 million. I mean, kind of hard situation, right?
Really?
So I'm like, how do I do that? So I was RC racing a lot, so I started contacting RC companies. Kelly Lunsford was one of my first ones. Kelly's super guy. I hate that he's not in the hobby anymore. He still RC races some, but hate that he's not still making products.
Yeah.
But he was one of the first ones that I approached, and send a resume and get to know him, talk to him, and landed a little bit of a deal there. So I'm like, okay. So I had a little success there. So I was like, okay. So I'm going to take what I learned and try to go after. Let's see if we can get some free oil for the race car, right? So started heading that. So I'd get a little bit of success on the big car stuff. I'd be like, I need to adjust my craft a little bit, and then I'd hit another RC company. I got Peak Performance with Rick Hort. Awesome situation. That was one of my favorite sponsors of all time. Rick is just such a great guy.
Both of him and his wife, Tracy,
just
amazing.
Awesome people, right? So I got hooked up with Rick, and he was a racer anyway, right? Like he wanted to be a racer. He ran some road course stuff, like with his personal car and some different stuff. But anyway, that's kind of how the RC sponsorship stuff started, because to try to get success, to get other sponsors for the big car, I needed to learn how to do it on the little cars, and then just kind of went from there.
So you were racing RC cars just as a hobby while you were still running?
Yeah. So when I was, my dad died in 86. I'd say in 1984, bought a Cox Scorpion. My dad, I was talking to my dad, and so Ranch Pit Shop was right behind Pomona Valley quarter midget track.
Yep.
So we could, as kids, we would go down an alleyway, hop a fence, and we could be at Ranch Pit Shop. And there'd be about 10 of us hopping a center block wall to get over to the backside of Ranch Pit Shop. We'd climb over there, and back then the 8-scale track was there, and then the off-road track was in the corner. So we'd land on the off-road track, and then we'd go over and watch the 8-scale guys and stuff. Well, then what was happening is one of the kids would be like, we'd go in the hobby shop, and it was like, oh God, it was like Toys R Us, right? Like just looking around, like, this is great. This is heaven. You see all the Andes painted bodies on the wall.
Right.
Each kid would end up going in there and trying to get a car here and there. So my dad ended up getting me a Cox Scorpion at the time. I just thought it looked really cool. Ran that a little bit, and then we went and raced at a Race Prep used to have a track, outdoor track. We went and raced there, and my dad being the guy he was, like, if we're going to do this, I got to figure this out, right? I mean, I'm still charging my battery off of my dad's battery
truck,
in the El Camino with a cable going to the battery and a Tamiya plug to the battery. Like, you got to time this, and this thing's hot. Don't touch this wire. It's hot, right? And so my dad sat at the tech table, and he's like, he always called me Frankie. He's like, Frankie, he says, those cars don't look like yours. I go, what do you mean, Dad? This one does. This one here and this one. He goes, yeah, but those ones, they ran like mid-pack because you had to put your car down and then go Marshall. So that's where my dad sat, is where the cars would be put down. And he said, yeah, but these ones over here were really good. And they were Gold Tub RC10s. They had just come out. And so my dad's like, if we're going to keep doing this, I think you need one of those. I was like, nah, I like my car, this and that. Well, I don't remember if it was a birthday, Christmas, or if I won a national event. There's something cool happened, because at Ranch Pit Shop, my dad, after we tested at Pomona one day, he drove me around to the Ranch Pit Shop to the front. He said, let's go in here. He says, I think there's something in here. And he had, I want to say it was Gary Kai's, I think, is the one that built my RC10, my original RC10. And my dad had it sitting in there for me.
That's pretty rad.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that kind of like it maybe explains a little bit of your the nostalgic in the reason why you're so into the older
into
buggies
the
right
stuff
now, the vintage.
Big time.
Yeah.
Because I can still hear my dad talking like that, So and back then, when we were racing back then, like the B2 is my favorite car way back when.
I had one. Yeah.
B3 I never liked. B2, loved it.
B2 is great.
So by the rules that we could run a B2 at the race I ran at World RC last year. So I bought a B2. I TQ'd and won, or actually, no, I think Dog TQ'd. I won the 2-wheel one with the B2, so that was pretty
nice.
Cool.
I know last year you were on a hunt for all kind of vehicles.
Yes.
You messaged me, you're like, if you can find a T2.
I was looking for a T2. I got one of those. I TQ'd the race with a T2. Yeah. I had that. I have a double X4. Ran that. Now I'm nuts. I've got that. I've got, I won the Heritage class, which was a short arm RC10, like the original RC10. Had to be 6-gear transmission, the old 6-gear transmission.
Damn.
So, the bad part about it is I'm more into that right now than I am the
modern day stuff.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't understand this. Like, I'm sponsored but I'm paying a lot of money for the old stuff.
Well, there's a reason for that, obviously. Like you
Yes.
said, I mean, you said, just the nostalgic of you doing it with your dad. And
100%.
I have my Falcon up there. That was my first car. That's not mine. Somehow I lost my first car in my divorce to a woman that.
I lost a few of those in one of them.
But I have no idea why. And actually, I think funny story, when I went through my divorce, my wife bailed and left all her shit that she didn't take in her car with her, which is very strange. So, like 6 months later, I decided to take it all to her just to get it out of my life. And I'm pretty sure my big duffel bag of RC stuff, which had my B2, my double XTCR, and my Falcon,
all in a bag
that I'd been keeping for years. Obviously, that was in 2008, so I'd been keeping it since the mid 90s. And that duffel, in the fact that she didn't, because I'm 99.9% sure I dropped it off with all her shit, that she did not tell me, hey, there's a bag of stuff here.
Oh, no, she threw that in the dumpster. That was way
and
more
I did
fun.
the nice thing. Like, I took
all
her shit. Yeah, like, all she had to do was be like, would you want this or you want me to get rid of it? Just something simple. Be, I'll pay whatever. Just ship it back to me. But yeah, so I that car I'd never forget. Like my wife always says, how do you remember 1987, but you don't remember what I told you yesterday?
Yeah, I have I'm there. Yep.
So I mean, I remember this vividly. It was almost Christmas, and I got up out of bed late at night, and I went out into my garage because I heard something, and my dad is in the garage building that car at night, drinking beer, hanging out by himself, doing his thing. And I saw it, like I kind of saw my Christmas present that I didn't know was my Christmas present.
Right.
But that car was the first RC car I ever had. I raced it a couple times in Tucson at the track that we were at. And it just, even though it didn't like spark into big RC passion at that time, like that was my first RC experience. The dang heat resistor that's on that thing, it's like a ceramic heat resistor that burned the shit out of you every time you touched it.
That's what my RC10 had.
Yeah, that thing would fall off. I'd run it so much, I would burn it off, and we'd have to go up to the shop and get another one or a couple of them because he knew it was going to happen again. And so I used the shit out of it.
Pretty good back then because
See,
I
didn't.
was having to change them all the time, and my dad would be like, this is the last one.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, so if I can change it like 4 or 5 more times, then maybe he'll change it once.
Right. I mean? Yeah. So that fond memory led to, in the mid 90s when my buddies, I saw a buddy of mine that had an RC car, and he was driving to Denver, which was an hour drive from where we all lived at. And me and my best friend we bought cars, and we were working at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and we bought cars, and we'd go down every Wednesday night to Moore in Denver.
Go race.
And we would go race. And that's when I had my B2 and my double XTCR. And back then, the stealth clutch and the hydro drive and all that stuff. And like so different than what it is now. I mean, it's so trick. People, if you weren't in RC back then, you don't know how spoiled you are now.
Yeah,
because the stuff is so nice right now.
Right now, everything is so nice. Everything works.
Yeah,
like you didn't need a Dremel.
Precision, man. Like it's so good right now. Yeah. And you don't know that because you didn't. If you didn't participate back then,
and in a 10-car race, maybe 7 finished because 3 broke with something,
or you didn't have a battery that lasted 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And
you ran it too many times that day.
Exactly. If you didn't have a battery for every time you ran,
yes,
you're not going to have a good battery for your main event.
I remember carrying in an extra box just
for batteries.
Just sell my batteries. I want to run 12 times today.
Yeah. And they also don't know how well they have it because they don't have to put their radio in a box.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Or 69. Anybody 69?
Yeah. Turn it off.
Yeah,
turn it off.
Please.
I'll never forget a race that I was actually leading, and somebody turned on their radio and jacked me. And I wasn't that good back then because I was lefty, and I was having to stand sideways on a very small driver stand with an antenna, a fishing pole, and it was uncomfortable. I was never as good as I am or was lately back then because I couldn't afford an M7 or an M8. Yeah, the only ones that went lefty were the Airtronics, and I couldn't afford that. I had a Futaba Sport. Junior, you know, like
Yeah, sitting there trying.
yeah,
to,
the little rectangle things and with a fishing pole antenna. Like, so I was always cramped up and, but yeah, if you're new into RC and you didn't race in the 80s and 90s, you just don't know.
No,
you just don't know.
It was so funny story. So we go to World RC for that vintage race last year, and Benny Wilkerson went with me, and I ran 4 vintage classes. And I told him about midway through practice, I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna make this. And it's nothing for me to come to your place and run 5 classes of the modern stuff, right? No big deal, dude. 4 vintage classes is hard work, and that's not running that's running brushless stuff nowadays. Not the old comp stuff, but stuff breaks, like stuff. It's a lot more fragile, right? So yeah, the working on stuff. I was busy as could be. I was like, man, I got to eliminate something. Of course, me now, I'm gonna try to run 5 at the next one. Yeah, I've gotten more intelligent. You know.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good. Actually, yeah, I'm good. Are they colder now?
Yeah.
Yeah, give me one.
Yeah,
then.
this one's really cold.
Oh yeah,
I had it in there.
that'll work.
Robert, you good? Yeah, man, I would say I miss those days, but I kind of don't.
Also, like,
I only miss the camaraderie of my, that was once again talking about quarter midget's best days. Those were in my high school years when I was really serious about racing, and the buddies that I was with and the times we had, not even just at the track, but driving to and from, because it was an hour each way.
Sure.
And we were younger, so, we were doing kid things in the car on the way there and on the way back and enjoying our life. And
had a good time.
Yeah. So, I really do miss that. Being an adult isn't all it's cracked up to be.
No,
I'm
it's
coming
a
to
lot
find
nicer
out.
not to have to worry about that. You don't have to wake up the next morning. You know what I
Right.
mean, to go to work.
Even if I did, I was going to school, I'd sleep through a
it's
little
no
bit
big
of
deal.
it.
I'll miss first couple periods, be fine.
Yeah. But RC racing, you don't get to do it as much anymore. Like, when we first met, you were racing a good bit.
I was racing a lot, and now I focus hard from mid-November until end of January. That's when I can race. So what's so hard about that is when I do fire back up, it takes me a couple weeks to start to get any speed back. And then by the time I get my speed where I'm almost okay again, it's time to go back to work.
Right.
So it's like, damn it. So my wife has been gracious enough. I've gone to Mimi's twice in the last probably about 6 weeks. I'm going to go again next week. So I'm trying to go maybe once a month. I kind of feel like I got to pass maybe for once a month, which is awesome until obviously off season. Then I'll break out a little bit more. But I'm still, since I travel for a living, I can't go race big events from November to January.
It's hard to spend a whole weekend.
Yeah, I can't do it. Right. Wednesday nights are my deal. Try to do either World RC or Mimi's. They're about the same distance for me, so I can hit those on a Wednesday. Big races, I've been bugging you to have some vintage race at the Toys for Tots race, so I can have an excuse. I might bring the family down and put them at Ocean Lakes, and I'm going to come over to the Toys for Tots race. And then I think I'm going to try to hit a World RC race, and then at the vintage race that World RC has too. So probably 3 races this year will be about probably max.
You haven't been to a Chili Bowl in a while.
So Chili Bowl has been really hard. Chili Bowl, the problem is we're there for a week, so that gets hard. And then when COVID came, I stopped going right around when COVID hit because I would get the Chili Bowl flu every year.
Yeah.
And I'd feel like I was going to die. So I'm gone for a week, and then I feel like I'm going to die for about 4 days.
Yeah.
And then I got to get ready to go to typically the Clash. And so I'm like, well, it's not fair to them. I'm down for 10 days, right? And then when COVID hit, I'm like, what if that's even worse than the Chili Bowl flu when I get back? I'm really going to be in trouble, right? I can't, and I can't miss the first race of the year,
right?
Where I'm unemployed. So I'm like, so Chili Bowl has been basically one that I'm like, it's just not worth the risk anymore.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite races for the big car. I go for the big car race.
It's one of my favorite RC races of all time, just because it is so hard to win. I've been fortunate enough to win it, but man, it's so hard. It's so gratifying when you leave there And to win Mod Sprint, when you leave there, you won, right?
I'm a year away from being able to run the Masters class, so I'm looking forward to that because I can't win. Not that I care. So
It's harder.
I know I could luck up and make a main, and I might even luck up and win a main if all hell breaks loose. I haven't made one yet because I only race that style of dirt oval once a year, and I haven't raced dirt oval anything for a couple years. Like I've just been out of it.
Done it.
But that race is so hard to make.
It is.
It's so hard to make the main, so hard to win. So yeah, especially sprint car, if you win sprint car, I mean it's the hands down in dirt oval RC. That's the one to win.
It's the Mecca deal, right? Like it's and it's that race is so much fun, but it also is a letdown, right? They only 10 guys are going to make the main, and I mean we've all left not making the main. Man, that's a really big kick when you're there for a week and yet you didn't, you ran 3 classes and maybe you made one main, maybe you didn't.
Just like the real Chili Bowl.
It's 100% like the real.
20 or 24 cars make the main, I think, out of 400 or what I mean? Like
it's hard as can be.
It's
when there's
not supposed to be easy.
100 sprint cars and they take 10. I mean, do the math. It's hard to make it.
Absolutely. That's what I love about the big car races. Like it's not a lot of rules. You got to fit in this box. Do whatever you want within it.
Yep.
And may the best man win or woman. And there's been a lot of quick women there lately. But when you get up 400 cars, and you're the winner,
that's a big deal.
That's a lot.
That's a big deal.
You know what I mean? That's a lot. Like that's like winning at nationals, A scale nationals,
100%.
where there's 200 entries and you're the one winner.
The one guy.
That's why having that one single class versus the argument of having the sportsman, intermediate, and pro, but having just one class of nitro buggy, the winner is the winner.
100%.
You know where you fit in. Did you get better? Did you have a good day? Did you have a bad day? So that going to the Chili Bowl and watching those guys that can not only win it but be in the mix every year, just shows you how bad to the bone they are.
100%.
The Christopher Bells, the Larsons, when you start seeing just any of those guys, the talent that they have. You can pick about
4 or 5 of those guys that are there in the mix every year, and it's incredible.
But then there's always those couple that like they're shining, they're like diamonds in the rough. They're coming up, and they're maybe not going to win it this year, but like Seavey, Logan Seavey was always in the main, and now he's won 2 in a row.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
you felt like eventually when he hits it, he's going to hit it.
Exactly. And he was with good cars, but he just wasn't with the right car yet, and that's what I love about Chili Bowl. It's just in the big cars, it's just the best person wins that year.
I agree.
A lot of luck, to get there, but in the same token, you still got to be a bad mofo.
It takes all of it.
Did you ever race the big Chili Bowl?
I didn't.
You didn't race the big Chili Bowl?
No, I had thought about it. I was gonna try it one time, and then I didn't. I went and I ran for Zach Dahm at an indoor race. So Zach Dahm came and drove some of my late model stuff. And then I ran a midget for him at an indoor race, and I was going to try to go to Chili Bowl, and it just never worked out. And I was too old to where I wasn't as fast as what I needed to be. So I didn't want to go to the Chili Bowl and be in the F main.
Right.
I mean, I wanted to go in the Chili Bowl, and I wanted to at least try to make the C, right? And I just didn't feel like I was going to be good enough to do that. And like I said earlier, my dad said, if you ain't going to do it, don't do it. So I didn't do it.
It's good advice, though.
It's. I mean, it saved me some money, right? Because I was gonna have to bring some sponsorship.
Yeah. Who's writing those checks, man? We fought that. I think that's the biggest bummer of modern day racing is not all of the best drivers anymore are getting noticed. I mean, a lot of good drivers do get noticed because people will get behind them with money, even not family money. But there's people out there that have had so much talent in the past that just never.
Oh, I mean,
never got the opportunity.
You can go down the list of just one category. You can just look at late model stock car guys and the history of a lot of the guys that were very talented, won a lot of Saturday night races that never even got an opportunity. Right? Yeah. So it's incredible that there is so much talent that's really out there that nobody knows.
Right. What's your favorite RC class? Like what if you were going to pick one car that, that you were going to drive, that your favorite.
That's hard to say. And I can give a couple reasons. When we ran bumps and jumps back in the day, mod sprint bumps and jumps, running like a 4 or 5 motor, running 3.5 second lap times, actual battle and racing. That was so cool. But it had to be at the right place, right? The right conditions, you had a ton of people. That was kind of like the Chili Bowl back then at the open wheel.
Yep.
So that was awesome for the time period. Back in the day, 2-wheel buggy was really, really good for me. I enjoyed that a lot. But I feel like now I've gotten older. I enjoy 2-wheel and 4-wheel, the 17.5, 13.5, just because that's more of my range now.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's my favorite.
That's just where I'm at, now. But now when I was younger, either 2-wheel mod buggy or mod sprint rubber tire or mod sprint foam tire. Now the 2 oval classes, I still feel like I can hang. The 2-wheel off-road mod buggy, I'm out. Now the 40 and over, now that I'm 51, which is, it's harder, but I still feel like I can hang in that, right? So you're still with the guys that you were racing with back in the day.
Yeah.
I feel fine in that, but racing against the young kids now, I don't have the reflexes anymore that they had.
Yeah. I raced the Masters class at Nats at my track this year for the first time, Masters, and not, in other or mod buggy or anything else. And I had a blast.
Yeah.
And I was competitive, like I wasn't going to beat BT or Horn. I was running with Horn for a good bit, but I was in it, made the main, and I was driving good, and I like that class.
Those are the guys, though, the 2 that we raced against earlier on,
yeah.
right? So I still feel like I'm still with that group, right?
Sure.
I'm not the kid that that they grew up on video games now, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, they and I said this many times. They have no fear.
Right.
These kids, they can full pin it, they can control it, they can do things. I call it no fears. We don't have that. We think about things. We analyze it. We also think about, because you and I in the same way in the past, like if we wreck it, we got to fix it, or we wreck it, we got to pay for it.
Got to pay for it.
And that might not hold real true in like a mental block in RC, because things are relatively inexpensive when it comes to breaking an arm or stuff like that. But
for us now,
yeah, but the way that they drive it, it's like they have no fear of breaking it or anything. It's like full bore,
and
I can't compete with
that.
The
cars are so strong. So going back an example, my mom used to drop me off at an RC track. This was when you could do this. She would drop me off, and I was, what was I, 13? She would drop me off with $20, and I would get out, and I'd have my RC10 and my box, my radio. She'd drop me off, and I would be there by myself. Maybe no friends came with me that day. So she just dropped me off by myself. I'd pit on a picnic table by myself. I had $20, and that was for entry fee, and that was to eat, and that was for spare parts. So I didn't eat. I would just pay my entry fee, and then I would have money for spare parts. Well, I remember breaking. She would drop me off at like 8 in the morning. I remember breaking by 9:30, and I didn't get to race, but there was no cell phones back then.
Right.
And so I sat there all the way until 8 o'clock at night when she was coming to pick me up, and I had to watch. So I became very frugal on one. I always saved my money on any type of allowance so that I would have a little extra. I never ate at the RC track because I couldn't afford to. And I vowed I wouldn't watch anymore. So I was always more, okay, well, maybe that pass isn't worth the risk, right? Because I need to be here till mom picks me up.
Right.
And
no, that's awesome. But we're more, because of that, we become more of a technician, not a just send it kind of guy.
No, my goal is if I can run let's just say a 19 flat, if I can run a 19.2 and I can run a 19.2 for 4 minutes, 5 minutes, however long the race is, that's what I need to run. I'm not going to run the 19.0, like it's kind of like, I look at it as hitting a driver off the deck. Yeah, I can do it once.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to do it every time.
Right.
Those kids nowadays, they run a 19.0. Shoot, I can run an 18.5, in the next one, right?
Yeah, no, they have no fear, man.
None.
And you said video games, and I grew up on video games. Like one of my fondest memories, my grandfather buying me the original Nintendo. Going back to this memory, my wife says I getting the original NES and playing it, Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, the Kung Fu, all that shit, Excite Bike, and just being good at it and beating the levels and escalating until I got to the point of age where, PS4s and Xbox 360s.
There's too many buttons now. Nintendo I could do because there was an A, a B, and a stick.
A D-pad, right?
Yeah.
So, I love video games, but I don't, it goes back to how much time can you spend doing it? Because to be good at anything, you have to do it all the time. And these kids, that's what they do. They get home from school, they do their homework if that's what they're made to do, and they play video games until their parents tell them they have to stop or whatever. And some parents don't care if they're on it as long as they wake up to go to school. Some parents,
8 o'clock, that's it. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what they will do. That is their RC car.
Yep.
And then when they do find RC cars and they do find the fact that they can get out of the house and they can go hang out with other people in civilization and not talk to them and not see the face, on the other end of the headsets, they're good at it because they have been practicing RC unknowingly their whole life.
Yeah.
Because they've been either handed an iPad, they've been handed a phone.
Well, and the cars are so good nowadays that they can take a box stock setup, and those kids are so good at hand-eye coordination now that they can take that car and haul butt. They don't have to be as mechanically inclined as we did when we were growing up. We had to make sure we finished the race.
Yeah, and make sure that it handled.
Yeah.
We had to get creative on how we change things because now, we didn't have the adjustment these guys have now.
Maybe you put 10 drops of 25 weight and then you filled the rest up with 30.
Exactly.
27 and a half.
We didn't have that, So, it's just the video game era. I tell anytime I'm over at the big shop and I'm talking with people, they start asking questions. They have 5-6-year-old kids. Like, is this going to be good for my kid? And the first thing I ask them is, does your kid play video games?
Right.
And if they say yes, it's like, this is an easy answer. Of course he's going to be good at it. If anything, your husband's going to be asking him how to use it after,
100%.
After they've played with it a few times. So, we were talking a little bit about iRacing, speaking of video games, because I know during COVID's when I ended up getting mine because I was like, we were all at home by 5 o'clock. I was still working, but we didn't have a lot of people coming in at the time. So I could get home and play video game, play on the iRacing. You played. I played with you a couple times, but I not as much as some other people that are, in, like Max. I think you said you played a good bit with Max for a while.
Yep.
I
ran with Billy Fisher for a little bit.
There's another guy.
Yep.
Man, old Billy. I'm so glad he's out east. The problem is I still never see him.
I haven't either. I haven't even got to talk to him since he's moved, right?
Yeah.
But so I got it during COVID too. And the reason why I got it is so we were shut down. We didn't know when we were allowed to go back to the racetracks, right? Like I was on my way to Atlanta when they said that we were done. And like none of us believed it. Like I was riding with my teammate at the time. We pulled off an exit. Like, there's no way they just canceled the race. Like, no way. Somebody's joking, right? Anyway, long story short, they'd canceled it. So they started doing NASCAR on TV iRacing, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they required the spotters to spot, or they at least required your driver to spot, or your spotter to spot your driver. So Ricky Stenhouse was my driver at the time. And Ricky didn't care much about the whole iRacing part of it, right? So I had to get my stuff going, and then I had people helping me. So when Ricky would get online, we would have to help him get his rig working right so that he could. I'm like, dude, we got to be on TV. We got it's gonna be on TV here in a little while. Yeah, okay. And so they would tell him how to set what, and we'd go out and run, and so it actually was for work at the time. Because I'm still spotting. I'd be at home, but I was still working. So that was the original reason. And then I was like, I could start prepping for us. So I still do it once in a while. I'll still prep for a race by iRacing, like just getting the braking points down for a guy getting to pit road. Like Shane Van Ginsberg is my Xfinity driver, so he's never been to these places. He doesn't know where he's got to hit the brakes to get on a pit road.
Yeah.
You know? So I can give him a better marking.
But he's probably one of the best breakers in all of NASCAR now. SVG's killing it.
We were at Pocono. And he says, "Hey, mate, where do you think we need to come in here?" And I'm like, "Well, most people are going to go to here, but I feel like we can go to here." And so in practice, we always do a pit road run coming to pit road. And he's like, "Okay, I'll give it a try." So he comes all the way. I was like, "Oh, yeah, we're good. We can go right there." He's like, "Perfect." Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man, the amount of time that they're giving those guys to practice now.
20 minutes.
Unreal. Can you imagine?
20 minutes.
Can you imagine? I mean, we talked about this once, but only a couple races a year that it's like this. But can you imagine if every time an RC racer went to the track, it's like
20 minutes.
You get these sessions and that's it.
That's it.
No line waiting. You hear be ready if you're.
Go. I think once it became the norm, it wouldn't be as bad. But can you imagine the complaining that you would get day one?
Oh my gosh!
Like, here you go, dude. So listen, here's the deal. We're gonna have you're gonna get to run 3 times before your first heat,
which is how it's done at DNC, Silver State, Nationals. There's a few select races that's what it's like.
But it's been that way, and it's the norm that way, so you don't hear the complaints,
right?
Whereas if we did that Saturday night at Beach RC, whatever group you had come in there, be like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, most tracks would lose that crowd for the next week.
Yes, 100%.
I'm not going back there.
Yeah, I'll go somewhere else where I can practice.
Yeah. Even though that they can come any other day that they want and practice all day.
Yeah.
But that one time they show up and they only got that many shots, that's it. Oh. It'd be like sometimes I think people just over practice. They drive themselves out of a setup because they think if you start, your car was good last week. They show up on a club night, and it's early, and the track's not come in yet. So now you're changing everything. By the time you get back to the track, by main time that same night, your car should have been the way it was the last time within a couple small adjustments.
That's the hardest thing when I go to Mimi's. So when we get there, I try to get there when she opens because I don't get to run as much as I used to anymore, right? So I got to have every bit of track time I can just to drive the track, just to get used to the radio again, just used to driving. And so it's so hard for me not to be making changes right there because the track is definitely not have the grip then as it does main time.
And you want to get the laps in.
Yeah. So I'll run, and then I can't help it. I'll start tweaking stuff, and then I'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm good right here.
So you want to win practice.
100%. And then first heat comes and I about flip off the track and like, I need to go back
to back off a little bit.
So now I've at least gotten smart enough to where I have the 4 shocks and springs that I'm going to race in my box. And then I have 4 shocks and springs that I'm practicing on, and I'll do all the adjustments I want and be tuning on that. And then I'll know I can go back to these 4 shocks and springs. That's going to be like what I need for when the races start. And then I'll start putting stuff back.
That's one way to keep you in a box, keep things going the right direction. Because I could see just how easy it would be to tune yourself out trying to win early on in practice. And like I know that when I go race A scale, my car is usually pretty good with the setup that's on it. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be changed, and I'm probably complacent. One of the reasons why I'm not better than what I am, but I know it's good once the grip comes up.
Right.
So I don't ever get too crazy early on when I'm trying to learn a track or just kind of get comfortable. If I get into a couple practices and it's just not coming around, then I'll start working on it.
Then you can start tweaking.
Yeah. But I watch people just start panicking, like change the tires, change this, change that. It's like, well, when you raced here last year, same dirt, very similar conditions.
Shouldn't be much different.
What did you run? Like what tire did you have on? Well, we all know it's this. Okay, then everyone's running this shock package. It's what, it's what I had on, but now I changed it to this because it wasn't working. It's like, go back to it.
Yep.
Go back to what worked, and then
tweak it.
Because when the
problem
track gets
is,
good,
so what happens is now once the race starts, right, you're almost scared, like, how much more is the track going to come around, right? And so now you have to club race in order to test, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because second round, you have to be brave enough to go, okay, well, let's throw something else at it and try it rather than be complacent and run the same thing all night, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I've got to be tuning on my stuff when I go there, is I'll start tuning once the heat start. But then I got to be smart enough to go back by the time the main comes around to get back right. Which it's gotten to where over there on a Wednesday it's hard to make the main. There's enough fast guys that have been on that track. She only changed the layout maybe once a year.
Really?
So when I go play, I mean, I'm down 1,000,000 laps by the time I get there. I'm on lap 1. They're on a lap 1,000,001.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in a track that's, it's glued, you said. Mm-hmm. So it comes around.
Grip.
I mean, it's got grip.
100%. It comes in. It comes in relatively quick, but it just keeps gaining grip.
Yeah.
As the night goes, and you just got to be ready for it.
So does ours, but we don't have a ton of entries on Wednesday nights. So come main time is generally a track has gotten good enough to, the car can get a little twitch to it.
Right.
Earlier, before that, you're sliding a little bit. It's, you're looking for some added grip.
So when you get there, you're looking for a little bit of grip, but only just to go a little faster, right? And then all of a sudden, you got that and more, and you're flipping off the track. You're
right.
Like, oh boy, where am I? Now what? So
yeah.
Start trying to take it away.
Huh.
It's crazy.
Yes, we've talked about it, like Lucas
paper.
and I all the time. Yeah, we've always talked about people are spoiled in this, because a lot of places change the track a lot, or they go to these arena races that it's a new layout and they know everyone's got on the same level playing field. But just being able to go to a track like Mimi's and be able just to learn and get better and yes. get faster. And there's a lot to be said for that too.
Well, what I like about it is I feel like I can do a lot of testing there because I know how fast I ran last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I should be able to run that fast. And then if I can tweak my car a little bit, I can go a little faster. If I can bring a different tire sauce in there, maybe we can go a little faster. So it's helped me. I think of it like this. I think of it as an on-road track, like an oval,
mm-hmm.
right? You know what the layout is when you get there.
Yeah.
So now the whole goal is, and part of the fun is try to beat yourself. How can you be faster than you were last week?
Absolutely. I agree with that.
I think for me, it helps me a lot of being able to test. Now, the hard thing for me is I'm racing against guys that have so many laps that they're just that fast. I mean, every little section, they know how to get that extra bit out of every little section where I'm still trying to figure it out. But every time I go, at least I know it's the same. So when I'm working on my car, 2 weeks before I'm going to go the next time, I at least know what I'm going to get into.
Yeah.
I have a direction.
You actually work on your stuff?
I actually do. I try to get in there. I try to lock every door, and I try to get in there and just try to work on my stuff. And the only reason my phone is there is for an outgoing call in case I need something from like you or something. I need some more of this or that. I need to either get with you. It's on a dial to go to you, Brent Thielke, Spencer Rivkin, like depending on which question I have. Right.
That's awesome.
I don't take any incoming calls.
I don't have that. Some of it's me, just luxury wise. Like the desire to work on my stuff at home has kind of passed me. I don't know how to explain it. I love working on. I don't mind wrenching. I know that when I'm going to any A scale race for the most part that I'm always there a day early because I'm going for big events.
Yep.
And so generally, I just know I can rebuild my car the day
While you're there.
before.
Yep.
It's not the smartest way to do it. It's not good on equipment. I don't suggest it. Anyone that's watching this, don't do that. But it's just how my life works right now, because when I do get home, just like you, between travel and hours put in here and stuff like that, I do take the time that I have and spend it with my wife or my kid, or I have a fish tank that takes time. Like, I have other things that take my time when I leave this place.
I try to take a day, because typically, now this is when Chloe's in school, so obviously I get her ready in the morning and take her to school. My job allows me to be home during the day a lot, which is great. So I'll take one day and create that as my Sunday, we'll say. And I'll get Chloe to school. My wife's at work, and I can just lock myself into my garage and work on my stuff for a couple hours. And it takes away all of the other stuff that we all have, right? We all have issues with whatever we got going on in life. I try to escape for a couple hours each week into whatever. Back when I was iRacing some, try to just escape. I bowl a lot. I just try to take my mind and go focus on whatever it is, so that I'm not focused on work at the time. And then that way, when I get fired back at work, I'm ready to roll, right? I'm all in. So,
well, that brings up a really good question that I would love to know, just because of the profession you're in. But what's an in-season week like? What's an in-season week like for Frank Deiny?
Typically, typically I'll get a hold of SVG. We'll go over some stuff on like Tuesday mornings. We'll have a meeting about how the race went. What we could have done different. Just some different things, and then we'll start prepping for what's to come. Now road course weeks, I don't bother him. Like I just sit there and get a tan during road course weeks. We made a pact at the beginning of the year that I would try to help him look good on the ovals, and he just make me look good on the road courses, and it's worked out.
It's working
great.
good.
It's working good. He's holding up his end of the bargain, right? So we talk on Tuesdays, and then I'll typically watch whatever we're racing that week. If we run trucks, Xfinity Cup, I'll watch last year's race, each one of them, and study how each race went, how whatever car I was spotting for performed, and then also what I might have missed, right? Like when we're spotting, we're so involved in the actual spotting stuff, we don't ever hear any of the coverage, so it is kind of nice to hear what's going on. But I just study the different lines of what's happening. I may jump on iRacing a little bit and try to figure out, like a breaking point for pit road and some different stuff like that. Just basically trying to prep, right? Just trying to get better. And then obviously have all your equipment ready, charged, can't have any of that go bad. Can look at SMT. So nowadays you can get on there and look at the past. Like let's say we're going to go to Richmond. So I can look at my SMT from the last Richmond race, and I can see how much, let's say, Christopher Bell was using the brake pedal getting into turn one, and where he was picking the gas up, and so you can kind of look at. There's tools nowadays that we're allowed to see that we weren't allowed to see back then. So study some of that, just see how I can help my driver be that much better. Which obviously, my drivers are typically doing the same thing. They'll watch last year's coverage. They'll go get in the simulator. They have meeting after meeting. So everybody's kind of prepping their own way, and then you just kind of try to bring it together.
Gotcha. So you normally leave out on like a Thursday?
Typically on a Thursday. So I fly with the team every week. So I live in Virginia. So I drive to Statesville, North Carolina every week and fly out typically either late Thursday or early Friday. Well, if we're going to leave early on Friday, I stay at a buddy's house Thursday night so that I can get there, because it's about 5-hour ride from the house to the airport. So you can't be late, right? Like I'm not going to be the guy that they're holding the plane for. So
right.
If we leave real early, I'll leave the night before.
Gotcha. And then, so you're doing all 3 classes right now?
Yeah,
the
and then
most part.
I'll do ARCA when they run as well.
What are you allowed to say who you're spotting for?
Yeah, so ARCA, I do LeVar Scott in, and then which he's the number 6 car, and then in trucks I do Ben Rhodes, the '99 truck, which we won the championship last year, which was pretty cool.
Nice. What team's that for?
Thor Sport.
Thor.
Yep.
Okay.
And then SVG at Colleague Racing, the '97 car, which that's been a lot of fun. I spotted for AJ for a long time, AJ Allmendinger, and then they switched me over to SVG this year to help him on the ovals, and he's never really had a spotter before, so that was entertaining in itself when we first started talking.
It's like his head.
Yeah,
he's like, who's talking?
Yeah, he's like, I don't, I've never had a spotter. I don't know how much I'm going to need you. And I'm like, that's a honest answer. I said, you'll need me more than you think. I said, you haven't needed me because no one has one. I said, you have to use it as a tool to be able to try to be that much better where your eyes that you can't see.
Yeah.
And so funny story. We were at Daytona, and he learned to trust me right away. And this is about that. So we're at Daytona, and I'm telling him that a run's coming. And at Daytona and Talladega, we talk a lot. Like he's like, I don't need you to talk much. And I was like, man, you're going to hate me. I was like, because we're going to Daytona first. And I was like, I don't come off the button typically at Daytona, like the whole lap. Like, you're on them because you've got to give them so much information. And I'm like, I'll just paint the picture, and then you do what you want. I will give you the options. So anyway, I'm telling him a run's coming. And he says, he's sitting there, and he says, I'm okay right here, mate. I'm okay. And he says, about that time, that run went by him, and he said, it about ripped the right side door off. And he's like, okay. So he's riding there a little while longer. A little while later, I call another run, and he's like, let's just see if this guy knows what's going on, right? He says, I jump in that line. He said, next thing you know, we're running second. And he's like, right then, I decided I need to trust this guy. So ever since right then, he trusts me. He understands that the position now, right? So he goes to Sonoma and spots for one of his friends in the Cup race because he wasn't running the Cup race at Sonoma. He just ran the Xfinity. And after that was over, we had our Tuesday meeting, and he goes, I respect your position even more now. He's like, not that I didn't before, but I really do now. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, I spotted turn 11. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I never realized how much you had going on up there. He's like, I had to call the one wreck, and I just told the guy, good luck. I'm like, dude, you spotted turn 11. Like, you did one corner in a road course, bro. I was like, come up there during Talladega or Daytona. He's like, nah, I get it now. Yeah. I understand.
Better to be a driver at those tracks.
Yes.
How many spotters are there at road course? I mean, obviously there's multiple turns, but like if you can only see one, there's one per corner, or...
Just depends. Like Sonoma, we use 2. So we use 1 in turn 11, and then we have 1 at the top of the hill, which is the main guy. So I'm in turn 2 at the top of the hill, and I can see most everything else. And then we have a guy in 11 that can see entrance of 11 and exit, and then we can see the rest. The Roval, same thing. We're over like in NASCAR turn 1, way at the top. So we see 90% of it, and then we'll have a secondary guy like on the front stretch that does the front chicane right there, which we can see it, but they're in a better location.
Gotcha.
Chicago, we have.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, what about the night, like the street courses?
Chicago's hard. We could have more spotters than what we have there, but we have 3 there. But there's a lot of blind corners, like Hemrick. So I do Hemrick in Cup, the 31 car. There was a wreck in turn 2, and we got involved in some of it. And he's like, man, he's like, where was the spotter on that? I was like, bro, remember when we went over it? There is nobody over there. Like, you're on your own when you leave me to all the way to turn 4. So I was on the front stretch. I see him going into 1. Well, when they exit 1, I don't see him anymore until they're coming into 6. So the other spotter is in turn 4. Well, he doesn't see him until they're coming down the straightaway, coming into 4. So you're blind all through there. And they had a wreck in turn 2. And the only way I even gave him any warning is I could see it on the TV. Which you got delay on the TV.
Wow.
But yeah, so it's those tracks are, which SVG, he's not used to a spotter that much, right? So it's not as big a deal.
Right. So out of all the year, I mean, you've been spotting now for a long time. Do you have like one favorite driver? I mean, I don't know. I know you've probably made friends with all of them, but like because of like the on air talk between you guys, or do you have one guy that you would have?
You have to truly admire AJ Allmendinger.
Okay.
He is absolutely awesome. I'll give you a few reasons. One, he wins the Roval last year, and if you watch that, he climbs into the stands. When he climbs into the stands, my wife and daughter are just beyond the flagman there. So he climbs through there, runs straight to my wife, and hands her the checkered flag and high fives Chloe, and then celebrates with everybody. Not every superstar is going to do that.
Yeah.
Right. That was a big deal. He didn't know at the time that they were going to be right there, but he saw them when he went through the fence. Like, he didn't go straight to them. He didn't know they were going to be there, but he saw
being
them.
that they were there when he went.
He went straight to them.
That's cool.
He's always treated my daughter awesome. Like when they announced that he was going to run the Cup car, Chris Rice asked me to come for that to the shop, and so Chloe was off school, and I was like, "Hey, you got to go to with work to Daddy, Daddy," and she's like, "AJ gonna be there?" And I was like, "Yeah, AJ will be there." She's like, "All right, I'll go." So we get there. And they're doing this press conference, and I don't want to be nowhere near this press conference. I want to be in the background, like, I've had my time in the limelight. I'm when I drove, I'm good with, I'll just be back here.
Yeah.
So she sees AJ's wife, Tara. So she goes straight up there and sits right next to Tara. So now she's on the front row, and I'm like, well, shoot, I can't let Chloe be up there by herself. I got to make sure she's behaved, right? So now I'm in the front row of this press conference. So AJ makes sure he waves to her while this thing is going on. So they do the press conference. Well, none of us knew it, but the cameras were still on. AJ comes right off of that, right off the podium, comes straight over and gives Chloe a hug. He didn't have to do that. That meant the world to me. He didn't know the cameras were on. It was for nothing. It was not for any of that, right, to look good in front of the camera or anything. He just wanted to come over and give Chloe a hug. So he does. And so Chloe talks to him for a minute, and he talks on her level. He'll just talk right to her. And so he had to go sign autographs. And I told Chloe, I was like, all right. I was like, we can go. Daddy's done what he needed to do. Like, I'm good. I'm clear to go. And she's like, I need to say bye to AJ. And I was like, no, AJ's busy. He's signing autographs. He's got a lot going on. And she goes, Dad, I can't leave till I say bye to AJ. I said, okay, well, I know where he is. So he was having lunch. He was in Chris's office having lunch. So we go in there, and there's a bunch of people in there, and Chris has got a big like meeting table in there. And so she goes over, pulls a chair out, sits straight across from AJ, just like we are here. And AJ stopped what he was doing and talked straight to her until everybody in that room had left, other than AJ, Chloe, myself, and his wife Tara. And everybody was gone. And then she said, okay, bye, AJ. I got to go. Like, bye.
That's
awesome.
I
mean, for him to treat her as good as he does is number one in my book. Like, I'll fight whoever I got to fight for the guy.
Yeah,
right.
That's cool.
But the other part is on the radio, he is absolutely entertainment.
So that's kind of what I'm wondering. Like, out of all the guys, so if he's that guy, like, what's he like? I know you can listen to him on certain like track passes and different things. But
if you ever want to listen live, NASCAR has an app that you can listen to. My wife listens to me live wherever she's at. She'll be in a grocery store and got the thing playing, right? So you can sit at home and watch the race and listen to us live. We're ahead of the TV. But you can listen to us. But anyway, if you ever get the opportunity, I'm not spotting for AJ right now, but I would highly recommend listening to him, because he absolutely, when he gets angry, he loses his mind. Like, I can literally see him standing on top of the steering wheel while he's driving. Like, he will get so mad.
That's awesome.
And he'll start losing it. And he doesn't yell at you. He's yelling at the situation.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I can't say the words that he uses, but he uses a lot of words that we can't say typically on the air.
It's funny that you say that, because I just seen the other day that because of some BS that's happened in Formula One. I'm not a Formula One fan by any stretch of the imagination. I watch all racing, but I don't watch any of it exclusively or a lot, just because of my time. NASCAR would be my favorite, other than like midgets and sprint cars, as far as mainstream stuff. But I've just lost interest for more than one reason. Not, sure. It just, there came a time where, like, I believe they stole why we loved it away from us. And I really think that, it's kind of biting them a little bit right now. They're starting to see it as far as like the fandoms and stuff like that. But that being said, I saw where Max Verstappen or somebody was cussing or saying some bad shit, and now they're trying to ban them from saying what they are going to say over these live radios I'm like, you cannot take the personality from the drivers, because like the drivers are what we're all watching.
100%.
Like the cars are they're all the same, and maybe not in Formula One, but they're trying to be NASCAR. They're all the same. Like, if you take the driver out of the car and just put robots in them,
right,
no one's going to watch it. And they've already PC'd them so much to a point where we're watching these polished off, athletes. And I think that's a little bit of the disconnect from the old school racers. Boys. Right. Yep. I grew up guys that would fight each other because you got 100%. Took out on the last lap. And now they're just kind of like, eh. And it's good to see when I do watch a guy get pissed and run over and yep. throw when, speaking of Stenhouse, right? That went after,
Stenhouse went after Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch, right. Yeah. I was proud to watch that.
He even said he was going to.
Yeah.
He told him.
Yeah, and he's a good old boy. Like, he's a dirt track racer. Like, Stenhouse.
I worked for Ricky, and I can tell you, when Ricky did that interview and said he was going to go over there,
you knew he was going to.
100%.
Yeah, but I watch him at the Chili Bowl every year. I watch him whenever he does his late, he does a little bit of late model race or World of Outlaw stuff as well. Like, that's what's still missing, or what has been pulled from NASCAR that used to, the allure of, like, why we all were tuning in on Sundays to watch it.
Out. Yeah.
It more than likely was going to. Like, they were allowed to race hard. There was no penalty for a guy going in other than a guy coming and hitting him over the head with his fist or a helmet. Right. No one wants to see a bunch of wrecked cars. Like, racing's racing, it's going to happen. But I do miss the fact that the guys now is almost scared to go in and
say anything because they're going to get fined so much.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think Ricky got fined like $50,000 for that deal.
Right.
Which, if anything, though, he brought a lot more viewers the next week.
Right. It takes me back to Happy Gilmore when he punched Bob Barker and they had that fight, and then they're like, well, we're going to suspend you. And he's like, you need to get him off the tour. He's like, no, this is the best ratings we ever had.
100%.
We need more of the ratings because we're not selling out tracks anymore. Used to go to a NASCAR race and the inside and the people that are camping they're all partying, but there used to not be seats available.
What I've seen has really helped that is they've gone to a lot of tracks are only getting one date now.
Yeah.
Wow. Is there a lot of people at those tracks
Which
now?
Is great.
Because they only have one date. So now.
And going to places where they kind of are, fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. They went to a lot of places in this expansion in the late 2000s where they were just trying to like go more mainstream and then I know there was some good old boy handshakes that went back to tracks because of who owned them and stuff like that, but we took out a lot of the smaller stuff.
Like North Wilkesboro right now, you can't get any more people in there.
And that's why not go to the places that you can't get any more people in,
right?
And then
venture
back out to these bigger tracks, these 1.5 miles. Having a few 1.5 miles, but maybe a lot more 3/4 and half mile tracks or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I can't fix NASCAR, and NASCAR might not need fixing.
It's definitely gotten a lot better with only one date. We've seen that a lot now.
That's good.
It's gotten way more crowded.
I mean, the perfect example is Bristol, in my opinion. Like, that place used to have to be willed into tickets. You couldn't get tickets unless.
Now, one of the dates is good. One of the dates isn't typically. Is what we see.
Well, the night race used to be like
night
the
race.
Used
to be big time.
Like, you couldn't get a ticket.
Yes.
And now, they're putting banners over half the stands.
Yep. Which you would not think that would have ever happened at
Right.
No.
And it's, we don't need more bleachers. We don't need bigger tracks. We need our fans back. We need to see the racing get back to more heated.
Yep.
You know, I don't personally mind the cars being very similar because I'd like to see the drivers be the deciding factor.
Right.
But also, like, don't take away the fact that, you know, people that work harder at the shop too.
Sure.
And now they have to work so hard to find
Now
just a
it's-
fraction,
Yes.
you know, whereas used to, like, you found that one speed secret and no one knew it until they figured it out. You had to be one step ahead.
Kind of like that right now. If you look, I feel like Hendrick is really on top of their game. I feel like they're the top Chevrolet right now, by quite a bit.
Yeah.
The rest of us are chasing pretty hard. But I feel like they have really, really stepped it up to where their consistency now, they always have one up front
Yeah.
right now.
They also have Kyle Larson. And
They do. But I mean, William Byron has been every bit as successful as Kyle Larson.
I love William Byron too.
And,
And Chase. I mean, they got a great team.
They got a lot of talent over there. They got
Yeah.
a lot of talented drivers. I mean, at the end of the day, we're racing, right?
Yeah.
They have the full package. They have everything over there. So,
Yeah.
So that's why right now though they've always got one of them that's battling for it.
Yeah. Do you think Kyle Larson's the best race car driver to ever live?
I wouldn't say to ever live, but he's pretty good.
You sure?
He gets to do a lot more, I feel like, than what you know, the good old boys did back in the day. You know, like
But he also wants to.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
some people could just sit back and be like, I got the life. I'm racing every Sunday.
Yeah.
This guy wants to race
Oh,
every
he does.
day of the week.
Well, I mean, Kyle Busch went through a stint like that too.
Yeah.
And then they limited him to where, you know, he's only allowed to run a certain amount of truck races, certain amount of Xfinity races. There for a while, he was looking like if they would have allowed him to claim points in every series, he could have probably won all three of them in the same year. I mean,
Which would have been impressive. Like
Yeah.
the biggest in NASCAR world.
that would have been huge.
Is it true that do you know, did Joe Gibbs pull Christopher Bell from racing anything else other than Cup? Like, is it in his contract now?
I don't know. I don't know for sure. Just speculation. I'm assuming
Because he's not even doing Chili Bowl anymore. And I know there was that little talk about like not doing it because of the purse and stuff like that. But even Kyle Larson's coming back. Like,
I don't think that has anything to do with
No.
it. I think Christopher Bell would race as much as Kyle Larson does.
he would if he could.
I think so.
I think you're right.
You know.
And I think people like Christopher Bell, William Byron, even Chase and Ryan Blaney, like these younger kids, I think they're all very, very good at what they do. I mean, they've been
A lot
racing.
of those guys run super late models and stuff on their off time too. Kyle is unique because Kyle has had success in all of it, right? He
Right.
can go run dirt. I mean, Christopher Bell, same thing. He can go run dirt. It's kind of like one of those things that those guys grew up running dirt, and then to make their living, they're running pavement.
It's like the Jeff Gordon path.
Correct.
Yeah.
So whereas as you take a guy like Kyle Busch, he's going and running, I want to say like at Millbridge and stuff.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
running some micro stuff and entertaining that, but he's a pavement guy that's just going and playing a little bit in dirt, right? But you take his name and you think if he goes and gets in a midget at wherever, Podunk Speedway, that Kyle Busch should run up front, right? Because Kyle Busch is Kyle Busch.
Right.
But you don't give him a chance to be able to figure it out. you
Right.
know. I think the guys that came from dirt to go to pavement, I think those guys are more well-rounded that can get.
I
in
agree with
whatever,
that.
You know.
But I also that also kind of like makes me firmly solidify my belief on the Kyle Larson effect and how good he actually is.
He is.
I
really
mean,
good.
just incredible.
Yeah.
But like, I watched the year that Chase Elliott came to the Chili Bowl.
I have spotted for Kyle Larson before too.
Have you?
Yeah, I won with Kyle Larson.
Nice.
Yeah, Darlington.
That's awesome. Like he's. I mean,
I didn't hear anything from him the whole race. We were talking about cool guys on the radio, like
Yeah.
AJ, like he's nonstop. You know, I got okay cool from Kyle Larson. That was it.
the whole race.
The whole race. Next thing you know, I'm standing next to him in victory lane going. You know,
That's awesome. Yeah, I was there when Chase Elliott ran at the Chili Bowl that year, and not that he did bad, but he was not good. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Great behind the wheel of a stock car because he came up through Legends and Bandoleros and late
All the
model and
pavement
all the pavement. But that's why Ricky, Stenhouse, we all, he won Daytona. Like he's had a couple wins.
Yep.
Nothing like an incredible pavement, but he's really good in a dirt car.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's one of those things where I agree with you. I think the dirt path to asphalt, more well-rounded of a driver.
I do, because those guys can jump back in that dirt car.
Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
So that leads me to ask you this question. Kyle Larson going to win the Indy 500?
Eventually.
I think he is too. Like I wouldn't doubt if it's next year.
Eventually, yeah.
Because he's just I don't think anyone has a feel for a car like he does.
I think you give Christopher Bell the same opportunity. I think he'd have a shot at it too.
And I agree with you. And I would love to see it. I mean, obviously he's a smart enough kid to know, boss says, no, then that's no, not push it. But Kyle Larson has a very unique situation. I'm sure when he went to Hendrick, God, Chip Ganassi blew that deal. But when he went to Hendrick, just imagine that conversation was, I'll come, but I'm racing whenever I want, as long as it's not on a NASCAR weekend or whatever, But
I mean, and also though, the amount of success that he has had, I want my driver racing every day. Why not?
Well, it's like RC.
You're only going to get better.
Keeping him sharp.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, in the same token, he's out there and his brain is constantly turning laps.
100%.
So
100%. Why wouldn't you? I'd love it. Now,
I agree.
Now, at the end of the day, he could get hurt, right? But let's reap the benefits of him being awesome. While he's not hurt.
All the best drivers mitigate their chances of risk.
You're going to use, let's just go to baseball. You're going to use your best pitcher as much as you can until he can't throw that ball no more.
Yeah.
I mean, so you got to look, there's 4,000 more drivers sitting there in the wings ready to go sit in Kyle Larson's seat. He needs to run all he can run until he can't run no more.
Right. Smart.
I mean, I don't blame him a bit. And plus, in Kyle Larson's shoes, we would all love to be doing that, right?
Right.
Like, that's a rough life, but I can't imagine just going and getting in a race car when I leave here right now. That'd be great. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it'd be great.
I mean, most of us met, if you've been in racing since you were yay high, you probably met the woman that you're with at a racetrack or in the racing world.
I go home to one of my trophy girls every night.
I met mine after I won an indoor ice race. So 100%. Like, they know you're a racer.
Yep.
And the reason why I say that is because, I mean, just watching his wife shotgun beers with him on, on the bricks.
She was at the dirt track, right?
Yeah, she was there. In that lifestyle that family leads. I mean, his son's probably going to be the next coming to Jesus if he wanted to be.
If he wants to be.
Right?
And if he has that desire.
Yeah. And it's just...
It would just be hard going back to that, growing up in that atmosphere, right? Like, poor kid, first time he goes and sits in something, he's supposed to win.
Expectations are through the roof.
100%.
I mean, look at Dale Jr. The list goes on.
100%.
Are you going
to be as good as your dad?
Right.
Kyle Larson's paving a pretty good path. Might be pretty hard.
Right. I was talking to somebody the other day about LeBron James and Bronny. He's on the exact same team as his dad. Like, what can that expectation actually be?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how can you... I would imagine part of him didn't want to even be on that team. Like, why would you even want to put yourself in a situation to be ridiculed every
100%.
Single day?
You're not as good as him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you got people like Chase Elliott, right? He's already won a championship. His dad grew up racing a totally different time.
Yep.
He was the first $1 million bill. Like, that was a big deal back when it was, but like, times have changed. Cars are better,
It's just like RC. The big cars are the same thing.
Right. The conversation
a whole lot easier now.
Yeah, the conversation of who would be better is so tainted. Jordan or LeBron. Any sport, there's going to be two of the best. You're going to be like, who is better in their day? Well, in their day, you can't compare it. The way that people are built now, the health, the fitness, the
Things
training, the technology, we're way better human athletes now
Well, you're better prepared, right?
Yeah, because you have everything. You have everything at your fingertips.
Well, just like, for instance, we were talking about the simulator for racing, right? Those guys get to run laps on the simulator before they ever get to the racetrack nowadays.
Yeah.
When
Feel the bumps,
all of it.
everything. Like,
when I grew up, I felt the racetrack by going and walking it. Like that's how I had to learn.
you had to see it. You had to walk it.
Yeah.
Test on it.
I remember
actually
going to
test.
Phoenix and walking Phoenix. You know, like, I mean, I'm like, this is how I learned right here.
See, they like the simulator. They limit how much practice they get now and test days.
Yeah,
so you have to have good simulators.
You have to have a good simulator 100%.
Because back in the day, you could just rent the track out for a day.
100%. Go test.
Take your whole team there,
Can't
test
do that
all
now.
day. All the tires you wanted to buy and all the money you wanted to throw at it.
Can't do it.
You can't do it anymore.
No.
And that's just to level the playing field. But in the same token, are there better simulators than others?
Well,
Like, in the world of TRD and Chevrolet, Ford.
I mean, they each have their own, right? Like Chevrolet's got theirs and Ford's got theirs and Toyota's got theirs. So, is each one of them better? I don't know.
Right.
You know, couldn't answer that.
Do they have multiple? So, like, because obviously there's a bunch of teams. Or do each team have like like if you're a Chevrolet team, you have a simulator at your facility, or do you have to go to Chevrolet's facilities?
They've got to go to certain locations and do them. So they're limited, right? There's only so many simulators that they can go do. But iRacing, I feel like, has helped a lot of that too, because like Shane will tell me, he'll jump on iRacing, you know, after he's been at the simulator, and jump on iRacing and just see how similar. Now, like, he jumped on there for Indy, and the package that we had was totally different than it was on iRacing for Indy. So he's like, I couldn't do anything there. He's like, but a lot of the tracks I can.
Interesting.
So.
Like, do most of the drivers have simulators that have movement and, you know, like,
I know Denny Hamlin has one that's got movement, but I don't think a lot of them do. Like, I know Ricky, he goes to the real simulator. Like, he won't get on the iRacing rig. Like, there's no way.
really?
Yeah.
Got to have the one that
He'll go
feel it.
Yeah, he'll go run that, and that's it. He hates his iRacing rigs.
Well,
He won't do it.
That's funny. Well, I mean, the NASCAR world intrigues me because we know a lot of guys in NASCAR like RC, or they like racing anything.
100%.
You know,
Danny Stockman.
yeah.
You know.
And Danny, and I get to see Danny a lot more than you because he races A scale, and I know you're more of a 10 scale guy. You know, I used to hang out with Jim Pullman a good bit because of Dirt Oval, and I raced all his stuff. I actually took over the series that Jim started, the C-Dob series. But any of those guys, just seeing them, and then, you know, that's why it's fun to ask questions, because I don't get to live that world, and not sure I ever even want to, because the commitment it takes that you guys have to put 100%.
In. Like, it's no different than any other thing that you want to be successful at, right? Just if you want to be good at it, you got to put the time in it.
Yeah.
For me, the spotting side of it is an absolute blast. I enjoy it. I feel like I am as close to being in the seat as I can possibly be when I'm spotting. So it's a lot of fun.
It's interesting because I mean, the amount of pressure you've got to have too, because you are the
100%. Like, if we make the wrong call, because our driver obviously is in tune to us, so they're going to go if we tell them to go. Like at the super speedways, they can't see at the super speedways. So if we tell them to go, they go. And we make the wrong call, it's not good.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, we have a lot on us. Plus, you figure, let's just say each team has a minimum of 50 employees, right? You got all those employees that like, we make the wrong call, and they got to try to fix that thing and get it to whatever race that particular chassis is going to run again, right? And oops, my bad. You know what I mean? Like, that's not exactly what they want to hear.
Yeah, that's just a X amount of dollar mistake.
Yeah.
You know, we
Oops.
totaled one.
Yeah, oops. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, we do. But you've also got to have the give me the ball attitude. You know? Like, you want to be in there. You want to be on that front line.
If you want to be the best, you gotta play the part of the best. You gotta
100%.
You gotta be that guy.
You got to be willing to do it, right? And the driver's in tune with you, right? And a lot of times, like on the 1.5 mile stuff on those restarts, they're pandemonium. And we're the backup for the driver, right? We're telling them, we're painting the picture all we can, and then they'll make the decision to jump out or not. You know, maybe they go top of 4, maybe they go in the middle, maybe they don't take that run, you know, but we're giving them all the information of everything that's around them so that they can make the right decision.
Yeah.
You know, super speedways, we're pretty much telling them on the decision on the 1.5 mile stuff. We're just giving them all the information, and then they come out wherever, and then all of a sudden, wherever they land now, say exit a turn 2, you're feeding them all the information that's going on the decision they made to where they can make the next decision getting into 3. So it's a blast.
Yeah, but you can't predict what the person around them is going to do. You just can only tell them where they're at. So
well, you have to learn, and I feel like that's by being an ex-driver. That's what a lot of us up there learn. We learn a lot of the tendencies of the other drivers around them. So we, like me, I always call out the car number that they're around so that they know and I know how that person drives. You'll know if a certain guy's going to overdrive the corner and get into your left rear, or if a guy isn't, you know, like I study a lot of that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it even more fun, depending on where you're around.
Interesting.
Like with SVG, for instance, typically at the beginning of the race, we start, you know, say mid-pack. And at the end of the day, you got to understand this guy is awesome. To be able to be even mid-pack at the start of the race when he's only had 20 minutes of practice, whereas these other guys have been here a bunch, right? And then as that first stage goes, he kind of feels it out, kind of sees what's going on. And so we're racing a certain group, right? So then we pit, and then we're getting ready to start the second stage. Well, now he's made it to where he's a little more comfortable. So now we're migrating, and now we're into racing this group. So we're around them. Then we pit again for the final stage, and then it's go time. And now all of a sudden we're racing this group. And it's awesome because we race a whole different group each stage, because he's just improving and improving and improving as we go. And it's really neat to watch him improve just throughout the race.
That's fun. Yeah, I've watched a few of his interviews, and he seems like he's just having a good time.
And he's real.
Yeah.
Real.
I mean, he comes from a fully different type of racing.
100%.
And jumps into America's #1 form of racing in the limelight. You know, he's expected to do something because he's a specialist.
Yeah. And he did, though, right? First race out, he did.
He did it.
He set his bar so high.
Exactly. I mean, you can't write that story. That's like what you can only dream of. Goes out and does it. And so now he's having to learn a whole new form of racing that they don't practice where he's from.
And where he's from, they typically don't shove each other around like we do here, right? Like, so we're in a full contact sport.
Sure.
I don't feel like they were on purpose, like a guy make a mistake or whatever and overcharge a corner and touch you or whatever. Here, it's by design. I'm moving you out of the way because
either that or I'm trying to make you go faster. Like, I'm trying to help, let's go.
So he's learning how to move a guy out of the way. And he learned how to side draft the other day, and it was awesome. He gave me the Ric Flair woo down the back stretch. It was awesome. My crew chief comes on radio. He goes, "Did he just laugh?" I was like, "No, man. He was like Ric Flair right there." Because he had learned. He felt when he got next to him, side drafted him. He heard the motor pitch change of the guy that he did it, and he's like, "Oh, that's how you do that." Dude, it was awesome then, because then he started doing it more, and he could see the difference in watching him learn and absorb that stuff. I mean, we're doing it. We're not practicing. We're doing it like live. This is, and it's awesome. That guy is really talented. Once my goal is if we can win an oval race before the end of the year, I think that'll be huge. And I think we really can.
Does he have? It's good. I mean, I would assume he has aspirations to go in Cup, but is there any lookers right now? Like,
oh yeah, I'm sure he'll end up Cup next year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's rad.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, I love success stories. Like, I love seeing the good guys do well.
Great guy to follow. Super good with. He's been super cool to Chloe. My sister was in Sonoma. Her son had never been to a race, so I introduced her son to AJ and SVG. So we win Sonoma. He gets to go to Victory Lane. This kid's ruined. First time ever goes and meets the guy that qualifies on the pole, wins the race.
Right.
Stands in victory lane with the guy. Like he'll never be able to go to another race.
Oh man.
So that was pretty cool. Another kid wanted to meet SVG, and I couldn't be down there, so I had talked to Shane that morning. Was like, hey, I got a kid that's going to be here at 1:30 outside your hauler. I was like, can you please take care of him? I was like, he used to be a Chase Elliott fan. That's all he wanted to be. He's like, I said, I haven't seen him one time this year that he wasn't wearing SVG apparel. He's like, I'll take care of him, mate. And I got pictures later, and the little boy come up to me and thanked me later that Shane came out of the hauler to come get him to meet with him and talk with him and sign his stuff. So cool, right? Like he's a real guy. He's not just a superstar that doesn't have time for everybody. And that means a lot to me that so many times you walk through the Cup pits and you see guys that just, they don't understand that they're doing something that all of us would kill to be able to be doing.
Exactly. Take it for granted.
Don't take it for granted.
Yeah.
Right.
So, okay. So who's the biggest jerk? In your opinion?
I would say at any given moment, Kyle Busch could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just because I think he's under so much pressure now because he was so good, that I think he's struggling right now. So I think he's having more bad days than good days right now. So I would say he's probably the hardest one. If you're a fan right now to go up to him, I think that you're pretty brave.
That's a good way to put it. What in the hell happened, dude? I mean, he was on top of the world at Gibbs.
Well, I think the biggest thing that happened was he's a racer, and COVID hits. They take away practice, okay? And then he was also racing trucks and Xfinity and Cup, and he was running as many races a year as he could, sponsorship wise, right? Like it wasn't that he was limited. Well, then they started limiting him, so now he can't run as much. He can only run, say, 10 truck races and 10 Xfinity races, so he maxes out. COVID hits. Now he can't practice anymore. Well, he was practicing the truck for 2 50-minute sessions, the Xfinity car for 2 50-minute sessions, the Cup car for 2 50-minute sessions. Now he's got no practice, and he's limited to what he can race. So now he's not being able to be in the car as much, right? Kyle Larson's still running on Thursday night or whatever, but Kyle Busch can't. So then after COVID hits, now we got 20-minute practices, right? So he's still not able to run as much as what he was. And I feel like that it just started to be a decline. He was so used to running all the time to where now he's limited. I think that's affected it. And he's gotten older too. I mean, he's gotten older. He's got a kid that he's very involved in, trying to have him do stuff. So I think he's just in a different point in his life. But both me and you, we still want to go back 20 years and be fast RC racing wise, right? Or anything that we want to do.
Just racing, period.
And in our mind, we still can, but maybe we just can't, right? So I don't know if maybe he's gotten old enough to
getting to our level.
It could be, it's hard to say. Could be, and then circumstances, right? Like he's changed teams and maybe he's not fitting as good as where he's at, maybe he doesn't have the right crew chief yet. There's so much that goes along with it, but I would have to say he just doesn't have as many laps as he used to.
And obviously he went through some big changes. I mean, they sold KBM.
Yep.
KBM, I'm sorry. And that was a weird deal too, because it was supposed to be didn't they just buy it to dissolve it or something like that? It went away, right?
No, no, Spire has it. So the
Spire
7, 71, and 77 is all KBM.
That's the old
stuff.
KBM.
Yes.
Okay. I thought,
and they kept
I thought I read where they didn't know that they were going to do what they did with it or something. It was a big deal.
It's still fully going, just like it was. It's just not Kyle's anymore. It's Spire's now.
Yeah, because that's where Danny was working, and also the other Danny, Pullman's Danny Brown. Sorry,
oh, yeah.
Danny Brown was there. But when Danny Stockman left there and went to Childress, I know that for Danny that was a big deal. Like, going from KBM to RCR, not that KBM wasn't good. They were winning. They had top of the line
Danny
shit.
had been at RCR before.
He had been there before, right?
Yep.
But going back to where, and I don't know what led him out of there, and that'll be a question for him when I can get him on here one day. But, like I would assume, Kyle Busch didn't land on a second-rate team. You know what I mean? He landed back on an
A+ team.
On an A+ team.
Yeah.
So, I used to despise him. I actually, the older I got, the more I liked his, like, gotta win, must win attitude. Fuck everybody else.
So, he drove some late model stuff for me. And he was that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, just mad. Like, he ran, had a Denny Hamlin race at Richmond. And he ran, and he was leading, and something broke or something. And when the races, I hadn't talked to him since. I spotted for him a few times, but I haven't talked to him in person. I spotted for him a few times, but he was so mad that he won the Cup race at Richmond, and he was still mad about the late model race. He even said it in his interview. It's pretty
That's
cool.
funny.
So at the end of the day, you have to respect him, right? Like, he's definitely maybe not the fan favorite because of his attitude or whatever. But that guy is, when he laces up those shoes, he is ready to go win that race.
Well, and that's what I was getting at. Like, I didn't like him but the older I got and the more I saw, like, I don't want to call them pussies or anything, but like the softer generation of racers start slowly trickling in.
Kyle is not.
And I started to respect that again.
Yes.
Because, like, we lost a lot of those badasses by retirement or worse. And, not that these younger kids aren't that at heart, but they're not allowed to be it.
Right,
because of sponsorship, because of NASCAR's, like, coming down with the hammer.
Yep.
So the fact that Kyle Busch is like, I don't care, I'm going to be Kyle Busch.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I respect that now. And for a longest time, I didn't. I didn't like him. But now, like, I digress and thought, like, man, I should have probably been more of a fan.
There's a lot of fire there. He just, and the respect is there because he just wants to win.
Yeah. It's tough, man, because the older we get, you said it a minute ago, like, we still think, put us in a car, put us in a situation, we think in our minds we could do it.
100%.
And some people can, but everything's got to be right. The money, the equipment, the situation.
I've had opportunities or a few people have wanted me to go run some late model races. And one, I don't want to unleash that beast again. I've got that
tamed.
Down. I got it tamed. I'm a spotter now, so I don't want to do that. But then the other part of it is the fear. Like when I walked away, I was winning, so it's hard to not right. Like I'm not going to be the guy. I'm not going to be the guy that's out there running 20th. Like that's just not it. And I know what it would take not to. And as old as I am, it would take a lot not to, right? Like you'd have to try that much harder than we used to. I don't have the time.
Yeah. Racing for fun's tough. When you've done it for a living.
When you've done it for a living, when that's how you've gotten paid, and then you're going to go have fun, it's hard. That's why RC racing.
Because winning's the only thing that's fun.
Yes. So that's what I tell my daughter when we go swimming. She's like, "We're gonna have fun tonight, Dad." I was like, "Well, if you win, yeah, absolutely." And I was like, "Let's focus on winning, and winning is fun, right?" She's like, "Well, yeah," and I was like, well, "There you go."
Yeah.
I was like, "It's up to you then. It's up to you if we have fun."
I don't know how. I don't know. Like I said, losing's not right. You're not allowed to lose and be happy about it.
No.
So, I just hope that if I can ever teach my children anything, it's to never be satisfied.
Right.
Never be satisfied with being second. And that goes for everything in life, not just, competition.
Do it too as an improvement, right? Okay, we finished second this week, but we picked up our time. So we're getting closer to the leader. Make sure we take little steps on, okay, we didn't finish last. We did finish second. We did get faster. all right, now we need to work that much harder though, because we're almost there.
Yeah.
So you can twist it around to where we're getting closer. Let's concentrate harder, right? And if you can do it the right way, they get it.
Yeah.
You know, I used to see back in the quarter midget days. I actually would feel bad because I remember we would leave the racetrack and I would see dads yelling at their kids that they lost to me. And my dad, of course, would grin on the way out, but
Of course.
they would be yelling at their kids. And it was so sad because I'm like, man, yeah, they lost, but take the positive out of what they did. Maybe they made a good pass. Maybe they, take a positive and help lead that to get them better, not punish them for not running well, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a different way of doing it. My dad always, I didn't have him very long, but I felt like he taught me how to get the most out of myself even when we had a bad day. We got to be better.
That's a good way to look at it. What kind of quarter midgets did you drive?
So I started out, my very first one was an old Curtis car.
Okay.
And then George Goddard was close to Pomona. So my dad went down and helped him put one together. And then after that, my dad started designing his own.
Okay.
So
you guys built your own.
Yeah, we built our own.
Cool.
So it was really cool. We would go test. I remember at first we ran torsion bar cars, and so we got that going pretty good. And then he started wanting to run coilover cars. So that was before any coilover cars were out. So he was like, well, shoot, I got to find a shock. So he found some motorcycle shocks. And he's like, man, I got to find springs. Next thing I know, he's getting springs designed. And we would go to the track, and he would have, I'm telling you, a box the size of this table. And he'd say, all right, we're going to figure it out. And I would go out, and we would test for hours, different springs, different this. And that's where I learned the feel of a race car, because I had to tell him what I felt, not only off the stopwatch, but I had to tell him what I felt, why it felt that way, what it did, under full load, this and that. And I mean, I'm no computers. It's my butt and my hands and my feet. And that taught me so much back then. And I mean, I think I was 8,
I don't know. You were earlier than me in quarter midgets. So, but for people that don't know what a quarter midget is, scale down full size midgets, but you literally sat on an aluminum sheet of metal, maybe with a little upholstery in there.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Maybe a little upholstery. So when you bottomed out,
it
was your butt hitting the
Yes.
asphalt going whatever speed and class you were in.
So you ran about 65 miles an hour, I'd say.
Yeah, on some of the bigger tracks for sure. And you felt it, like you had. So when you say you had to go out and feel it, like I think back to me in a similar situation. When we went and tested, having to know that feeling, but there's no better feeling than being that low to the ground. I think that's why I love dirt oval go-karts so much, because dirt oval go-karts at a very high speed, not strapped in, and
you're an inch off the ground.
Yeah. And that feeling is one of the fastest feelings you'll ever feel.
100%.
But quarter midgets, man, like safe and fun, flipping over walls, I mean, like you just.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. We started off with a Stewart. He used to build midgets in Arizona, and then he had a few quarter midgets. My dad raced a Stewart midget, which I need to litter this room with some of my dad's old pictures and some of my old racing pictures. But then my dad Jedi mind tricked me. So for Christmas one year, he buys me an A&J coilover car. They were based out of California.
Yep.
And or not A&J, A&A. It was an A&A car.
A&A.
Yeah. And he Jedi mind tricked me by saying, here's your Christmas present. By the way, you have to work all summer to pay it off. Yeah. So he owned a landscaping company. So I went to work every day that summer for $2 an hour.
Yep.
And paid it off. And then we ended up getting a Stanley. And by far the best car I ever had. We won multiple state championships.
And ran Stanleys.
Yeah. And went to Nats with it, or in Grands and stuff like that. Like that was that was the
car.
That was the car for me.
Yep.
It was actually coil front, torsion rear, and we were just dominant, man. We were anywhere we went, and I just wish that I could do it all over again.
100%.
I just want to do it again. I wanted,
Yes.
I wanted to live vicariously through one of my children. I wish that there was quarter midgets out here, or I could do it with go karts, but just find me a kid that's a wheel man, and
Yep.
because my daughter's not going to be it, and just be the car owner. Like
Yeah,
I
go
just
have some
haven't
fun.
done it yet, and that time may still come. I still feel like I have some years ahead of me.
You never know. You might become a granddad and be doing it. You never know.
In
I mean, it could happen, right?
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Could happen.
when you say could, I'm saying it better.
Yeah,
Like I don't
100%.
want it to happen anytime soon.
Right. We're not trying to
I'm
rush
talking
this
10,
situation.
15, 20,
I'm gonna need
15
somebody to
years.
help lift that thing up on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But man, just the time I spent with my dad, that was family time. My mom, my sister would come, my best friend and I would race in.
Family time with quarter midgets was huge. And then you would get there right and you'd be racing, a couple day events and all your families get together, and it just what a fun time.
Yeah.
And you get to race.
It's very similar with A scale RC, and I know you don't do a lot of A scale, and but I have found that similar vibe at these big 3-day races. The race time, anything that we put on out in the arenas, but you go to like DNC, you find there is that vibe, like motorhomes.
You can see that too, especially because of the pit stops and stuff. So the dads get to be more involved in the
Yeah.
I could see that now. And when I was stopping running 8 scale, we were starting to use radios. That's a huge help, I would think.
You and radios.
Yep.
Chili Bowl, man, I'll never forget the year that. Who were you helping that year? Was it?
I helped Chris Lemons. I remember.
It was Lemons, but was it also Tyler?
So I spotted for Justin Allgaier. I worked with him a little bit.
Yeah, but Tyler Green.
Yes.
Tyler Green.
Yes, I helped Tyler Green.
Was there, and
Yes.
but that year, like the people hooting and hollering over you guys using radios.
Oh, it was great.
At the Chili Bowl was awesome.
It was great.
That was like the first year radios became kind of prevalent in RC. It was like in all the A scale events, and
it was huge too because you can talk in a normal voice, and
it's not loud there.
Tune on his car right before he ran. It was great.
I'm surprised that it actually hasn't taken off. Like it's no one's doing it.
So much easier.
It is
so much better.
That was a big.
But people were mad.
They were so mad.
They were so mad.
It was an advantage.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, I mean, you could have had the same advantage. You just had to be smart enough to buy them before you got here.
I remember who was bitching the most about it. So.
Oh, it was great. But actually, for them to be complaining, it made it even that much better.
100%.
I mean, I remember going up there before and not even having them on, not even turned on.
That's funny because that's just fucking with their minds right there, dude.
100%. I remember because I was running and I don't even think there was anybody standing down below me with the radio, but I had them on me.
That's great, man. Well, look, we've been at it a couple hours, I believe, but it's good. It's been good to catch up.
Like you said, we when you told me to come do it, we'd sit here and talk. We could talk easily another couple hours.
Yeah, I could keep you going. I know your family's in town. I don't want to keep you longer, but man, it's been. I wish I got to see you more.
Oh, 100%.
I'm gonna come out to. Danny always invites me. Pullman's invited me. You've invited me. Like I'm gonna use.
You need to come to a race.
I'm gonna use each one of you
us,
so that I can see you guys more often. But I'll get out there. This year is gonna be tough through the end of the year because I'm going to Worlds and then and then once I get into October, November,
always next year.
Yeah, but
No big deal.
I'm gonna use it for some of like those tracks that I've never been to. And fly out or
well, and
come see you
especially
guys.
it's easier too. The ones that are farther away from Charlotte are easier because they don't have as many guests, right? So it's easier to get passes. Like going to Charlotte's like near impossible,
right? Everybody,
all the team guys,
are trying to get
like
there.
I'm like, yeah, I'm out. You all have, but
I'd like to come hang out and see everybody.
Come see us in that environment, and the best part about it is you'll be able to hang out with all of us. Like, It's great. It's a good time.
Be a good time.
And it's always good to try to beat those guys because you can always send them a text message, during the race or whatever. Like if we're out running Stockman, it's always a good time.
Oh man,
because he fires something back pretty fast.
Yeah, he's passionate.
Yes, yeah.
Those guys are passionate. I mean, I assume once you get to the crew chief level, like if you aspire to be that, I know you like the spotting. I'm not even.
Nope.
I'm not even saying like that's what everyone wants to be, but I assume once you get to that responsibility, like where a lot of the decision making falls on your shoulders, like
well, you're also the
that
scapegoat,
pressure,
right? Like if it doesn't go right, it's your fault.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like the
100%.
pressure, like you're the god if you win, you and the driver, and then the driver didn't do shit if.
Well, and it's like the spotter. So we're if you think of us, we're the field goal kicker. Only time you notice us is when we miss.
Right.
And then that guy, right,
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's a
Other
good
than
way to
that,
look
we
at
keep
it.
making the field goals and the extra points. You never even notice us.
Right.
We had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, every now and then they show that shot of 30 of you guys up there,
Getting sunburned.
getting baked in the
yes,
sun,
you can smell bacon.
You
up
would
there
think
bad.
of all the dang tracks that NASCAR would have fucking put some covers over those.
Yeah, only place that we have any type of covering is Phoenix.
Really?
Yeah, they tried to help us there, which the bad part about that is we do have a little bit of a covering, but the sun is right behind us, so we get it straight behind us. But they at least have tried to put some effort in.
Yeah.
Chicago, we have a roof because they have us intermixed with the fans, so fans can get as close to me and you.
Now, are you talking like the new road course or the Chicagoland, the oval?
Chicago, the street course.
The street course.
Yeah, because they'll build a big scaffolding area,
Right.
and so we're in, like the main guys are there, and then they have fans that are able to come up there and access.
What's your favorite track?
To drive, I always liked Martinsville. To spot, Daytona and Talladega are so hard that they got to be my favorite because we're so involved.
Yeah.
So much fun, and it's very nerve-wracking. Those races are tough.
I bet that's taking hours off your life
100%,
afterwards.
100%.
The stress of that.
Yeah, like if you make the wrong choice, it's not good, right?
Yeah,
Like,
because it's not only do you have 30-some drivers, but you have 30-some spotters. There's 60-some people that are.
all of us are trying to go at each other, right?
Yeah.
Like AJ, for instance, Xfinity wise, we lost that race 3 times. We lost 3 super speedways in a row on the last lap, and we finally got one after that and won one. So it's tough,
Yeah.
right? Like you got to make the right move at the right time, and so yeah, when we did win, it was game on. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, cool, man. We'll do it again. I'll see you
Absolutely.
in December at the very latest.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I
yeah.
will. Like I told you, I will throw in
Some vintage
a
stuff
couple vintage classes for the Jingle Bell Jam.
for the old guys.
But I also am thinking about throwing a couple vintage classes in for the Beach Buggy Blast at the end of September
I think
too.
that'd be
So
cool to
just to
check
kind
it
of
out.
So
That'd be good.
cool.
All
Well,
right.
good luck rest of the season.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
See you soon. I gotta get your picture real quick.
La 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 hey 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 la 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 la